So welcome to this week's episode of Mount Mindset with myself, Gio McNee. I've got an amazing guest, Thomas Martinez, the cycling tattooist. You'll notice I'm back in the studio. I recorded this episode after I'd finished the Cycling Paradise event that Thomas had put on. It was 4 days of cycling over in Portugal. For those of you who followed Thomas's story, he'd moved over there. He wanted to find a climate that was better for cycling, better for the weather, and to find new opportunities. We dive into Thomas's story here, and I'm sure a lot of you will know bits and pieces of it, but we really go to where it all began, from his humble beginnings in his childhood to some of the things that set in motion, some of the stories about his BMX escapades, him realising early on that hard work paid off and that sometimes you just had to go it alone, the difficulties of when you feel constrained and you feel siloed, and how important it is to find your own path and go your own way, and most of all, pursue your own dreams. So we're going to go into that in detail. It's a great episode for mindset to show you how powerful it is, that not only to accept that you're going to face the down parts of life, but really ride those upper parts of life, and don't get yourself bogged down in being a perfectionist. So this is the things that we'll find out with Thomas. By his own admission, he's a perfectionist. I'm sure you've seen his editing skills. He puts his heart and soul into it. I seen that when I was in Portugal with the guys, the level of planning, the route detail, the amount of effort that he'd put in prior to us getting there, picking us up at the airport. Everything was prepared, everything was ready, everything was really well thought out. That shows the level of detail that's a theme through his whole life, and he explains how that came about, and then how he developed that from something that he knew was a part of his character to also developing that to a super skill set. We find out how his creative outlet in the world of tattooing overlays with his amazing YouTube channel, The Cycling Tattooist, and how that came about through the pandemic, and that creative outlet was displayed so well in this ability to put something together. And he'd done it just as a little bit of fun, and look at what it's morphed into. He's living in a new country. Him and his amazing lady are out there living the dream in the sunshine, and most of all, he's making really good content. It was great to find out about the man behind the bike and to have him on the other side of the camera. We sit down, we go through it all. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope you guys do too. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So you're best known for being the cycling tattooist, but what was life like before the cycling tattooist? Because you built a great series of videos. I mean, it was actually good fun having you here, because you've got a knack for being able to see how things look through a camera, what looks good. How many episodes are you in on your YouTube channel now?
Oh, I don't actually know. I think around 160, maybe, something like that, but just over. Yeah, so quite a few now. Yeah, so I never, when I first started doing that, I never thought I would be at 160 episodes in. I thought it was just a bit of fun, something to pass some time. But yeah, now it's obviously turned into something way more than that. But
how did it start then? I mean, if you didn't have grand ideas of what it became, what was the initial thing that got you started?
Well, really, so it all came off the back of COVID, really. Obviously, like everyone, people that couldn't go to work, we had a lot of time on our hands, and one of the big things for me is obviously being a tattoo artist. I'm a creative person, and if I don't tattoo for a certain period of time, I start to get the itch. I'm like, I need to do something, I need to create. And I started trying to do some artwork and stuff, but it just wasn't scratching that itch. And then at the same time, I just took up road cycling, and obviously started seeing some videos that other people were doing on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that looks fun, and years and years prior to this, I dabbled with making videos and stuff and putting them online. So I already had that sort of, slight bit of knowledge. I didn't know as much as I know now, but I had enough knowledge to, get going. And I just thought, I think one day I just randomly decided, I went out on a ride, it was just a normal ride. I rode out, it was a 3-hour ride, down the road from where I live. And I just took a camera with me, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go for this.
So how long had you been riding the bikes? You were saying that you went out a normal 3-hour ride, so it wasn't like you started riding the bike and you thought, I'll go and film.
No, I'd been riding for a little while before I actually picked up the camera. I couldn't say exactly how long, but I mean, probably, I don't know, a few months at least, like maybe somewhere between 3 and 6 months I'd been already cycling. Obviously, being locked down went on a lot longer than we anticipated. So like, yeah, by that point I was like really itching to do something. And like, I'd heavily took up road cycling because of that. It was like something to really focus my energy on. But then, yeah, like I say, I then started seeing these videos other people doing. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll give that a go. And then, yeah, like I say, that first one, when I look back at that video now, it's like horrendous, like literally I could barely talk to the camera. The editing was, below par. It was, it's not great, but it was the first one. And I just went, yeah, let's go for this, let's just like take the camera out, film my ride, talk to the camera a little bit. Yeah. And just see what comes out, But the thing that was more important for me was it was the creative process. I wasn't doing it for a reason other than the fact that I knew I was going to get to film this thing, and then I was going to get to sit there and edit it and like put some, effort into like thinking with my mind and like how I wanted to create this story of the ride. And yeah, that was the thing for me. It was like, it sort of like gave me that creative like feeling again. I was like, I'm making something, like same way I feel when I do a tattoo,
People don't realize that. I mean, like how important that part of your life is, that if you've got an outlay like you had with tattooing, you're getting you're creating that picture in your mind. You've got you've got a target, you've got something to aim for. Mm-hmm. You have that relationship with a client, you're there with them. Like it's a big process. It's not just a case of, hey, look, you're going to use this sort of gun to draw a picture on someone and that's them sort of papped out the door. It was more a case of you actually have it's a big outlet for
sure,
on the other side.
Yeah.
And that when COVID hit, a lot of people thought, like, what do I do now?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And obviously, I'm not going to cry about it like we was the only ones that was affected, but tattoo artists were obviously, very affected. There was a lot of other people that was as well. But, it's to go from, like you say, doing that day in, day out, creating these things, having these relationships with customers to then nothing. It was just like, whoa, what, like, and the thing is like with a lot of people that are really passionate about their work, it's not just your work, it's your life, like you really put like your heart and soul into, creating these tattoos. And then, like I say, to have that just stripped away from you, it's like a chunk of your, like, who you are has just been taken away. And you're like, I felt really lost. I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I going to do with all this time? Yeah. It's just like, so it's such a strange feeling. Like, hopefully we never have to go through that again. But
yeah, I mean, it was a strange time, and obviously a lot of information's came out, and it was very, very different to what was portrayed. And I think that sticks in people's mind. I don't think that if an event like that took place again, people would behave the same way. There's a lot of leeway was given, a lot of sort of faith and trust that everyone was doing the right thing, and it turned out very differently. So what was like what were you doing before? What was life like before you picked up the camera? You said that you videoed a few videos before. What did you video?
Oh, I mean, that was years and years ago. I don't even know how old I was. I was probably like a young teenager, I was like 14, 15 maybe. This was like in my like BMX heyday. And like, yeah, me and my pals were all like absolutely obsessed with riding our BMXs, and like at that time, when you're that age, like you obviously don't have responsibilities. So like all you care about is going out and having fun with your mates, and that was what my life was. It was like, ring up my pal. Are we going to ride? Where are we going to go ride today? And we would just go out on our BMXs. And I don't know. I think because, like I say, because I'm a creative person, I I was interested in documenting it, and I would take a camera out of us and just film whatever, you know.
It's funny how we've came full circle, because we seem to be going round to getting back to that these days, where it's like, do you want to go out with your mates and ride your bike?
Yeah, I love that though. I talk about that on a lot of my episodes, you know, on the channel. Like, that's one of the things I love about road cycling the most, is it's like you get out with, you know, you and your pals, you're just out there on your bikes, you know, especially when you're somewhere like this, and, you know, like you was just here with your pals, like riding with me, and like, you know, we're just having these great days out, like just, I don't know, it makes you feel like a kid again, doesn't it? You know, it's like it's exploring.
It's like that thing. I mean, like, what's the adult version of when you grow up? You can get caught up in responsibilities, and you can get caught up in the what the traditional version of life should be, and it can all be a bit of a kind of drain, and oh well, it's all about responsibilities, and you know, joyless would be the word that would comes to mind with a lot of these sort of responsibilities that people throw out. But it's like, well, can you have joy as an adult? Should you have joy? Well, yeah, you probably should.
Oh, yeah,
like, so what's your outlet? And it's that thing is that you generally look back to what you enjoyed when you were a kid, and you shape what you found joy in there, and go, well, what would that look like now? You know, the job, the career, the profession, you know, family, whatever it is that your particular setup is. You go, well, how can I do it? And I think lots of people that get into road cycling realise that that's a big part of it. What do you so you were saying you were out with your pals, you were out riding the BMX. Like, was that when you started filming?
Yeah, so I mean, I started riding the BMX when I was like 10, I would say, like that. Well, like seriously, that was when I got my like first ever like proper BMX, you know, like I absolutely loved that thing. I actually still own that bike as well, which is quite interesting. Yeah, it's like one of my pride and joys.
What were you recording on? Because you, like, one of the things that has became very apparent in the last 4 days is how much of a perfectionist you are. Like, so what were you recording on back in the day?
Oh,
and was the perfectionist still there?
I mean, I don't know. I guess a little bit, but like, yeah, I guess that's sort of come with time a little bit, I suppose. But I couldn't tell you exactly what camera it was. A pal of mine. He had this like, you know, like the mini. I can't even remember what the tapes are called now, but it was like the little miniature tapes that you put inside of the camera, like those old school handheld cameras.
So like a small VHS tape that would go inside
like
the camcorder.
I can't remember it's losing my mind now, but it's like got a specific name, these like miniature tapes that you put in. And basically what my friend, you know, as a kid, like not like crying or anything here, but like I wasn't one of them kids that got a lot of stuff, you know, like especially things like that. Like my parents would never go, here's a camera, you know, it just wouldn't be a thing that I would ever be able to have. But my pal, on the other hand, he was like the opposite, you know, anything he wanted, he had it, to the point where he had this camera that he barely used, and he just ended up letting me use it. Like he you know, I don't know how it came about. I don't know how he trusted me with his camera, but yeah, he gave me this camera, and then basically every time we went out on the BMX, I would take this camera. You know, it was awful. Like if you look at some of the footage, like, I could dig it out. It's like, you know, it's terrible, like shaky, horrible footage. I used to like screw this like super wide angle, like fisheye lens on the end of it. So it was like every shot was like, you know, vignetted, like, you know, looks like you're looking through the end of like a glass or whatever, you know. And but it was cool. It was like, you know, getting to document what we was getting up to, and like I said, like BMX at that moment in time was my life, you know, like I absolutely breathed it. And just getting to like record it and then like go home and watch it. And then obviously then leading into then learning how to edit and like putting little videos together. Like,
so how were you doing that with a tape?
So
I mean, we probably need to explain this to people that are too young for this.
It's not. Yeah, it was obviously a lot harder than just now. You just drag the files straight across. Yeah, you had to like basically record it onto the computer. So you like, to be fair, I can't remember exactly because it's so, you know, this is a long time ago now, but it's basically like you play it on the camera and then you record it onto the computer. It like sort of captures whatever you're, you know, playing on the camera. So yeah, you would have to manually like, you know, get all the clips onto your computer, which would take, you know, ages in comparison to now. You just go boom and it's done. And then then you'd obviously have to go through it all. And then obviously like the editing like software wasn't as sophisticated then. And
so you said you were 10 when you started riding BMX. When did you start to record?
I don't know, probably maybe like 16, something like that. Okay. So yeah, like when I was 10, that was when I got my first BMX like that. You know, I didn't know what it was going to become. Like that was just, I was a kid. I loved bikes before that. Like I've ridden a bike since I could walk, you know, like, but yeah, 10 was like in my mind, the tipping point where it was like, I got this bike. I fucking, can you swear?
Oh, yeah.
I'm terrible for swearing.
Fuck YouTube and their censor, please. I don't care. Fuck them.
No, do you know what though? Because I'm really conscious of it because of the like my channel. Yeah. I don't swear on my channel because I know I have a lot of people like reach out to me and say, you know, like, oh, I love watching my your videos with my kids, and so I'm conscious of it. You know, I wouldn't ever want like. You know. For
those out there, your kids swear when you're not listening.
Of course, but I just try, But so
no, I get both sides of it. I do understand it. I get the whole kind of side of look, it's nice to be polished and respectful, and I think that's good. But there's an element of like the rawness that I think is quite good to see. And sometimes you know, the way that YouTube likes to run their I don't know what the polite way would be of saying it, where YouTube likes to have things their way and they shape that with some of their criteria. You know, and I'm not for that. I think just be you, like just be whoever you are.
It's a minefield, all of that, isn't it?
It changes. It's not a fixed thing. We say here's the rules. It's like 1 minute the rules can be one thing, and then you know we said, hey, look, you set the rules, and I'm playing with the rules, and then they say, we've changed the rules. So it can be. It can be tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be hard for someone like you as well. Like, you know, all the different things you're talking about. At least with me, it's like, you know, very like niche thing that isn't, you know, it's not really going to go against many guidelines, you know. So
it's one of those things where, you know, I don't particularly care for the, you know, if what one platform decides to show or not show, another platform picks it up. So it seems to be this battle that they have where, you know, I'm on all the platforms, so I can see the numbers where, you know, one is pushing it, another one's like, no, we shouldn't be saying that. We like it this way. Right. So yeah, but it's just interesting to see how, you know, that shapes people's perspective. But it's good that you're also getting out in front of, you know, people that are showing, you know, your videos to their kids, and you're inspiring the next generation coming up, because you know what it was like being a kid. You know, imagine what we would have been like if we seen those videos, you know, and had access to the information, all the clips that were there. It would have been fascinated by the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like even not just with kids, like, you know, that's one of the things when I receive a message off, you know, someone like, you know, who's like my age or whatever, and they're only just getting into cycling, and they say it's through watching some of my videos, like. That just blows my mind, but that's like half the reason I do it, you know, because it's like it's helping other people to find this passion that I've also got, you know. Like, it
was interesting because I remember watching I must have seen, you know, YouTube shows you like you get the red bar at the bottom if you've seen a video, and it'll show you how much of the video you've watched. I must have watched loads of your videos, and it's amazing that I hadn't clicked, because it was years later. It must have been like at least a year later. Where I've clicked on a video and I'm like, oh, who is this guy? And it was the same intro. I think he had a different intro because you must have had the Bianchi bike and then some sort of drifting sort of bit. And it never clicked in, and then you had your current intro. And I didn't put the two and two together, and I thought, I'm sure I've seen this guy before.
That original intro was one I just threw together out of like clips that I already had. Well, obviously, like we were saying, like me filming stuff isn't like a new thing. Like I was saying about the BMXing, I also have done a lot of drifting, and I filmed a lot of that. So I had all of this like, you know, backlog of like old clips and stuff. So yeah, I threw a few of those into the old intro. And now when I look at that old intro, it's a bit like, well, it's I don't know. I'm like very monotone, like talking over it, and it's just it's not really the vibe.
But the good thing, I mean, like, see, the thing that people don't get is that is one of the things that cripples perfectionists is they want to try and get everything right before they start. And you look at you would say, oh, looking back, you're really critical on like it's this, and you're picking the faults and the things that you did. But what you don't realise is that started you to become as polished and as refined as you are. You needed that start to become what you are today.
No,
without that starting point, none of this happens. So that's the power of beginning, even if it's imperfect.
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah. And I don't think I would have started doing the YouTube stuff hadn't it been for that situation. Like it like I say, it was the situation of me not really having anything to do and like just needing to create that pushed me to do it. If it would have been in any other situation, I probably wouldn't have, because of the, like you say, the perfectionist thing. It's like I would have always like found a reason that this isn't going to be right. This is but in that situation, I was more like, yeah, let's just see what happens.
So you've had like two things that you've said is like people that don't know your profession, a tattoo artist by profession, and you sort of got into road cycling. So you've got a YouTube channel, you do your road cycling videos. That's very, very creative, and not so much just the video part, because people don't really see the behind the scenes, which is the editing, how you put things together, how you like it to look. There's a lot of thought process that goes into that. Now, you said that you started recording with your pal's camcorder when you were 16. Was there any other signs before when you were 16 that you were quite creative?
Yeah, I mean, like I've always, been into art in general. Like, ever since a little kid, I love drawing. Like I just draw all day long, So yeah, I was always like creative in that sense. And then, throughout school and stuff, those were always the lessons that I excelled in the most, like I did do well at school, but like, art was like, when I had that subject, a lot of kids who aren't creative, they hate it, because they're like, oh, I can't draw. I used to love it, like, and I was almost like the teacher's pet, because like, if there was an example of what your homework needs to look like, she would hold mine up, like, and stuff like that. So it was like, yeah, it was ever since I was young, it was like instilled into me, like,
What did you like about it?
What, art in general? I don't know.
What did you feel when you were doing it?
I don't know. I guess like it's like almost a sense of like freedom or whatever. I don't know. Like I never really thought about it, but I think
it's just, I mean, I was listening to what you were saying. You described it, and you were like, "Yeah, go to classes." But when I was creative and I had, I would go to art, I would excel.
Yeah.
So something changed when you were there.
I mean, yeah, I guess like everyone likes to do well at stuff, right? So like that was my thing. So it was like, in school, like I wasn't the most like. I was intelligent, but I wasn't like top of the class in like, any other subject really. So that was my thing. So then like when I went to art class, it was like, like I was the guy doing the cool stuff, like people wanted to see, oh, what's Thomas drawing? Like, and they'd be like amazed. Like, and it's just that cool feeling, like when you produce something and people are like, whoa, like, like,
to see what you were drawing, because I think to what you're drawing, and I'm thinking, again, this is why it's worth asking. Right, so I know the type of music you listen to. You're into BMXing, drifting, right? You're a tattoo artist, all sort of pointing towards, that kind of subculture, cool, almost sort of thug life sort of out there. Right? But I'm trying to think to myself, surely this isn't what you're presenting to your art teacher.
Yeah, I mean,
but were you painting something like Van Gogh or anything like that?
No, I mean, I've always been, my art ever since I was young has always been very like, I'd class myself as like more of a technical artist. So I basically like, if you put something in front of me, I can copy it exactly. Like I'm almost like a photocopier, like, but which is more of a technical skill. Whereas like your classic artist would be more someone that could just sit there in front of a blank canvas and just let their mind go wild. I can't really do that. Like I can force it, but I can't, you know, it's not natural to me.
Explain that to me. So like you're creative, but you have this technical ability, but the technical ability isn't really being creative. You're just like a photocopy. You're like a photocopier.
Yeah.
As such, we go, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. I can replicate it.
Yeah. To me, like I've always felt that my style of art isn't as impressive as, like I said, somebody else who is just more, you know, in their head. They can just pull these like mad things out of their brain and just put it on paper. Like my mind just doesn't work like that. Mine's more like, if you put something in front of me, I could sit there and draw it, you know, and lifelike as well. Like that's more my art, is like the realism kind of stuff.
See, when you're focusing, what kind of mind space do you get into? Like, what are you doing to get that level of focus?
I don't know, really. I've never really thought about it, I suppose. And to be honest, nowadays I don't really draw a lot. Like it's kind of something I've, you know, let slide.
Do you mean draw as in like sitting down with pen and paper rather than tattoo?
Yeah. Because that's the thing. Like naturally, unless you're like a psychopath that literally, you know, lets it completely take over your life. Like some tattoo artists, it is everything to them, you know, like they work all day and then go home and draw all night. And to me, like I can't do that. I need, you know, there's other things in my life I enjoy, so I need to have a balance. So yeah, for me, it's like the more tattoos that I started to do, the less I would draw on paper, because that became my art form. So yeah, that was just a natural thing. And then, yeah, like I say, the only time I really then started to pick up, you know, pen and paper or anything again was lockdown. Like, and that was just purely because I was like, I can't tattoo, so I've got to do something, you know.
So you were good in school. You had this technical ability. But how did the creative outlet? You have the technical ability, and where was the creative aspect? Where were you feeding that desire to be creative in there? Is that why you were looking for something like you're being able to review and edit when you got to the BMXing, or did you have an outlet before that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah, other than, like drawing and stuff, like that was my only outlet. And then when I became a teenager and then, like I said, got into bikes, also dabbled in a bit of skateboarding as well.
Were you any good?
I wasn't bad. Like I never really put a lot of focus onto that. Like there was probably a period, I can't remember the exact ages now, but let's just say between 13 and 15 where I did both. I was always primarily BMX, but then a lot of my friends skateboarded, so maybe to fit in I did it as well, and I was fairly good at it, you know, I could do some tricks, you know, but I always focused on BMX. But yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, I think that's probably what that was another creative outlet for me, you know, because BMXing is a very creative thing as well, you know, because you're sort of showing your style on the bike, you know, what tricks you like to do, how you do the tricks, you know,
because I mean, what you're describing there is you've got technical ability, which is like replicating a trick, replicating an image. You have this ability to sort of essentially see something, copy it, replicate it. But you also have the creative side, which the technical ability wouldn't feed as such, because you have this creative outlet where things appeal to you aesthetically, or you know, the way things look, or the way that the style is. Just like we were talking about the BMX trick, you're talking about that style and how you pull the tricks off the way that you want it to look, and you're putting, that's the creative element. The technical ability is how you execute. And I wonder how that relationship of the things that you've done, because it's very easy on you're watching you cycling. I mean physically watching you cycling, and I can see the technical ability, but also the thought process of, right, here's the art of this, here's how I want it to look. So the technical part is how you're executing it, how you ride the bike, what's the angle, what's the shot. But the creative part is, what should the angle be? How would the viewer be looking at it? And that's a real mixture of two great things. You can get people that can be really creative but technically can't execute it. And you get people that are really good at executing things but don't have any creative ability. So you must have a natural flow between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about it like that. But
I tell you where I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about that on the hills. Like, it's only occurred to me now because time's a great healer. Yeah. But I wasn't thinking. I probably subconsciously knew that it was in there, but I wasn't interested in thinking about it at that point in time.
No, I bet.
And 30-degree heat, 12% incline, watching you out the saddle, one-handed, worrying about your angle. I thought I'll come back to this later on. This doesn't need any of my attention right now.
Yeah, I did. I did. It had crossed my mind when I was like doing some of that stuff. Like, not only was I like obviously like setting a bit of a bad example, but also I was thinking like, is this making me like, you know, look like it's too easy for me? Like, I didn't want to.
No, there wasn't any. Does it look like that? There was none of that. It was conclusive. There was no one in the right mind could even bring up a reasonable debate about it.
Yeah, I was like, that wasn't my intention. Like, let's just put it that way, because like I was conscious of that. I was like, I know this is going to be like, some of these routes are going to be hard for these guys. Like, and then there, like you say, there's me like doing it whilst filming, you know. But I guess when I first started doing it, it wasn't that easy. It's just practice, isn't it?
It's more about an appreciation, because one essentially, like, you had two sides to the view. It was very interesting to see the technical ability, and it's sort of like behind the scenes. So being someone that's seen the videos, I'm looking at it going, yeah, I don't really know what's went into that. And then being there and actually being behind the scenes and actually barely holding on for dear life behind the wheel, and you making it look remarkably easy, and thinking, shit, he's really quite good at this, like really good at this. And so you have this appreciation of what it takes, but also you really struggle to be happy for you because you're making it look that easy, whilst internally, you know, I'm suffering. And I thought, it's fair play, because it was good to see. And I think that's the thing. It's like the whole swan analogy. It looks beautiful and graceful on the top. People don't realise the work that goes into it. And although it looked easy when you were doing it, I imagine that there was a lot of work that took place beforehand to get to the point where it looks that easy. No, like there's a lot of work to get there. I don't think you got there by being 16. Yeah, I've smashed my art exam. Let me ride this BMX. Let me just pick up this camera and I'll show you what I can do. I don't think it was like that. But yeah, at the time, I and I mean this in the nicest possible way. When you're on a bike, I can't trust a word that you say. Because see, when you say this bit's just a little bump, my friend,
I think that's just like now living around here though, like, because like I said to you before, there is really no flat, like, you know, very small amounts of it. So it's you know, in the short time that I've been here, I've had to quickly become used to the terrain, and it does start to feel like that. You know, a small hill, which, you know, back in the UK would have felt like a mountain. Now here is just a bump, you know, because then the real mountains, they're the ones that really kick you in, you know.
But I mean, I thought to myself, it did occur to me, because I remember seeing, like, on your Strava, for people who don't know what Strava is, it's an app where you can upload your rides. You can see things like power, elevation,
which is life to cyclists.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially like a connection to it's a part of you.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, what's fucking wrong with this guy? Why did he not put a ride on when he was in Essex? That place is as flat as a pool table. Why would he do it here? Like, what? Why would he do 2,000 metres of climbing? Who in their right mind would go, yeah, let's go and climb this? And I was even considering myself, why did I pick this? I think I really need to have a good, long, hard look in the mirror and think about what I've done wrong here. There's somewhere along the lines and it's that roller coaster ride, because I mean, I was talking about it earlier, because you have that thrill where you're getting out and you feel free, and you know, when you're going fast, you're in a pace line, it feels great. Then you hit a hill and you think, why did I pick this? And then you get to the top of the hill and you're like, thank God that was done. And then you start descending, like, yeah, this is great. Yeah. And you get back to the flat, like, yes. You get to the hill, you're like, oh. And it's just a roller coaster of emotions, and you can fit it all in 3 hours, 4 hours. But yeah, the heat, the combination of the heat, the hills, it was a good test.
Oh yeah.
Did you? I mean, picture like going back to when you were 16. You've got the camcorder out. Mm-hmm. So for all the youngsters out there, camcorders, what we used to record on. You got the camcorder, you're sort of starting to make this. So that's the creative outlet. You're using the technical ability in the bike. You can. Were you reviewing the videos? Were you going like, were you starting to perfect your style? Were you like, hey, I want it to look like this? And was that coming through in how you're sort of styling your tricks?
I think, leading like back into like me, like copying a lot of stuff, like that being sort of ingrained into me. I think it was just like seeing other stuff, like I absolutely loved BMX. I was addicted to it, and so like if I wasn't riding my BMX, I was watching a BMX video. So I think it was kind of that. It was like I was seeing what the professionals were doing, and then replicating it. Like if I saw a cool trick, I would do a cool trick, and also with the filming, it was like I said, I used that like horrendous fisheye. That's because that was like fashionable then, now like no one uses that because it, it looks tacky really.
I think I know what you're talking about. It looks like goldfish bowl.
Like it's so wide that everything like in the peripheral just all gets sucked in. It almost looks like a black hole, like a vortex or something. It's like the center's nice and sharp, but the rest of it's all like bent out of shape, and then up to the point where it's so wide that you can't. It literally captures the edge of the lens. So then you get this. They call it vignetting. Like it's just basically where the edges of the frame are blacked out. But so harshly that it's like almost a circle. But yeah, anyway, like that was like quite a fashionable thing when I was watching these old school BMX videos. So I just was like, wow, I need to get one of these lenses, because I want my footage to look like their footage. And then, so I just...
Was it Jackass that I seen it on? Like that was the things
they probably did it. Yeah, back it like way back, like not any of the movies, right? But like the stuff like on MTV.
Or the OG stuff. It was
like the real old school stuff. They probably did do that. It was just a fashionable thing, especially in skateboarding. The idea behind it is obviously that the lens is so wide that you can get really close to what you're filming, which is good for skating and BMXing or whatever, because you're right there next to them and you're going to get it all in. And it also doesn't matter really how you point the camera either, because obviously a lot of the time when you're filming this stuff, especially skateboarding, it will be filmed by somebody else on a skateboard. So, which obviously that's quite hard to do, with these lenses, it just makes it a bit more foolproof, you can just point it and you're going to get something cool. I would see all that and I was just like, I want my stuff to look like this. It looks cool,
See when you were describing like I'm getting an idea of what it was like when you were growing up. Like how easy, like did you have any problems fitting in?
Yeah, I would say so, especially at that point in my life, because like now, obviously, like skateboarding and all that kind of stuff is edgy and cool, isn't it? Like people like that, like and even like fashion now, like it's all very influenced by that sort of stuff. Whereas this was, we're talking, I don't know, this is like 20 years ago, so this, it wasn't like that. Like if you was a skater, people used to like turn their nose up at you and like, pick on you or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They'd be like, who's this like kid with a skateboard, or like, I was always a bit strange. I'd like grow my hair long and like dye it a different color or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and people...
Do you remember why?
I don't know. I guess just because I never really liked fitting in, I suppose. Like, I don't know.
It's weird that, isn't it? Because if you don't like to fit in, but there'll be parts of you that want to fit in.
Yeah,
it's a strange dichotomy, that, isn't it?
I think it's when you see people that don't fit in doing cool stuff, then you want to be more like them. But I don't know. It's weird. Like,
it's always a story where it's like the subculture is, hey, look, we don't really fit in, but we've got this group here.
Yeah.
And then you get the anti-hero, which is like, well, I know we don't fit in, but here's like somebody really cool. So you end up with this group where that you think it isn't cool, and then the whole thing actually becomes cool. And it's a strange shift.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I was just listening to you and I thought, well, you've got this sort of really niche creative outlet, which is tough. It's tough in the UK. It's tough if you're a boy. You've got this really creative outlet, so you might want to look at fitting in. So you would fit in with style, what you're doing, tricks, sports, all the usual stuff. But it's sort of got the two dynamics of how do you make them match. And I was thinking, well, you're doing the creative part and the technical part, but sort of trying to manage them. And you've managed it now. But I don't imagine then it would have been an easy fit. And I thought, would it have been easy? Like, how easy would have that been to fit in when you were, 10, 12, 14, trying to get that, feeling out who you were?
Yeah.
Because you know what it's like. You don't know, like you're trying to figure out who you are. And then if you're talking now about these sort of like subculture things that you're into, but this creative element, and they're not an easy mesh. You can't put the two together really easily. So I thought, I wonder what it'd be like. Like, did you ever notice it then, or is it just looking back?
Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about it, I suppose. But like, I think like I there was definitely, when I was like younger than this, I don't know, before I like really got into BMXing and like started hanging out with those kind of people, there was definitely a period where like I probably tried to fit in and, would do, dress the same as like everybody else and like, but it just felt like weird. Do you know what I mean? Like I never felt like comfortable. Like if I was like copying other people's like style, like everyone at school, everyone wears the same things. It's like to be cool, you have to have this kind of shoe or whatever it is. There's these like fashions that go about, and like I would like, there was a period of time where I would do the same thing, but it just felt like fake. It was like, why am I trying to be like everyone else?
How would you describe how it felt to you? Was it more like you felt rebellious, or was it more like you just felt that it wasn't you, or was it more like you felt that did you lack conformity? Like, what was it that was?
I don't know. Like, I guess like I say, I didn't like the fact that it was like, just doing the same as everyone else. And then
because I was thinking to myself, what would you like? Because initially I would have thought you were more of a rebel, like more of rebellious. But
I get. Well, I guess that's where then the skateboarding and that sort of stuff comes in, because it was like then when I saw other people, there was like some guys that were like older than me, like who went to the same school, and they would like leave school on a skateboard and then like be wearing like different clothes, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, this is cool. Like, and then I started getting interested into it. And then I just sort of like felt like way more comfortable around those kind of people,
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I think it was just a mixture of a lot of things, like, like the music they listen to, like, I'm really big into my hip hop and stuff, like, and like hip hop and skateboarding and BMXing like goes together really well, so it was just like, that was a thing. And then, like I say, the clothes, I felt more comfortable in the clothes, and, I don't know. And I liked that it was like an underground thing at the time, like it felt like, we're these like outsiders, like, I don't know, like I like that feeling. It was like we're different to the rest, like because this was like before there was like lots of skate parks and stuff, so it was like if you went out on your BMX or your skateboard, you would just do it in the street, like you'd meet up with your pals and you would just go find a spot in the street somewhere, like whether it's a curb or like whatever. There's natural things, I remember in the town where I was from, there was like in the high street, there was like loads of little things. There'd be like outside a shop, there was like a disabled ramp that you could ride up and like, and then do like a wall ride. Like I'm talking technical stuff here. People don't know what it is.
Well, for anybody that's lived through that generation will know, because anyone that picked up a BMX, what were they called? Rollerblades. I can't even remember. Inline skates. But if you went down to a skate park, there was three people that were there. You had the skaters, you had the BMXers, and you had the skateboarders. And whatever one of the three you were, now they had their own subgroup. I think the BMXers and the skateboarders used to fight for territory, and the skaters were just sort of the outcasts. But any one of the three of them looked at a landscape very, very differently from the rest of the population. Because it was like a Labrador just sees the whole world as edible.
Yeah.
Well, those people that have been in skate parks just look, can you grind it? Can you jump off it? Like, what trick can you pull?
Yeah, it's so true, yeah.
And they just didn't see and the greatest way to do it was if anybody played Tony Hawk's.
Oh,
you go, that's exactly how we see the world.
Yeah. Oh man, I know that you're literally saying exactly like how I used to feel. Like I go through a town I'd never been through before, and like you in your parents' car, you're looking out the window, and I'm like, oh my god, that'd be amazing to ride on my BMX, and then if it was like somewhere local enough, I'd then the next weekend I'd go get on the train and go to that town and then ride it. But you
would always know that it'd be like you would get people that would track animals through the forest and they could see if branches were broken or if a trail had been worn. You were looking for scuff marks, wax. There was just things like telltale signs. Somebody's seen what you've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was signs. Just the same as like a bush craft guy would be like, yeah, there's been a fucking bear through here. Like skaters, BMXers and skateboarders be like, somebody's been here before. Yeah. They would know.
Yeah, then because
there would be a mark.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I love that. Like obviously like skate parks are good, but yeah, that is brilliant. Like and then on the flip side of that, what you're saying, like seeing someone's been there before, the other even better thing than that is going to a place that you can tell no one's been before,
virgin territory,
and you're like, oh my god, I've just found this like amazing spot. It's like there's no better feeling than that.
Like someone in the council has ordered the rails that have the connector pieces. Like somebody's picked that these are welded. What a great choice. And even things like the thickness of the rail, how sturdy it was, how because it was always about how much it flexed. Was it wide enough? And all these sorts of things, it would just be the nuance of what you were doing. You would be sort of eyeing it up. But, virgin territory, something new. And not new as in like somebody hadn't found it. Even if they just built it, it was fair game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Oh, those are some good times, man. Like that, honestly, like if, like when you like think back to like fond memories, like that's like my default. Like I always go back to like those times of like, like I say, being out my pals on a BMX or like
so what's it like? Put me there. Like, so go back in your memory and just feel what you would feel, see what you'd see. What's it like? Tell me what you would experience.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, obviously, like I said before, you didn't really have a care in the world, did you? It was like, that was life. It was like, you'd wake up, you'd eat some breakfast and you'd be like, right, where am I going today on my BMX, and like after I like really got into it, and I think like a big turning point was like one of my pals was, I think, like a year older than me or so. And he got a car, and then man, that was it. Like once he had that car, and then we started just traveling around, like going all sorts of places. We'd like there was this old BMX mag. I don't think it still goes now, but like in some sort of form, maybe called Ride BMX. And back then there was like, they'd have like a directory of like skate parks in there. And like, we'd like look through and be like, oh, we haven't been to this one, and we'd like...
So you need to preface this, right? Because there's going to be people who go, what are you talking about?
Yeah, they don't even know what a magazine is.
But not only do they not know what a magazine, if they want to find something, they go to Google Maps.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so this is pre-Google Maps.
Of course. Oh man, this is just showing my age bad, isn't it? Like,
no, but they don't know the magic of this. Yeah. So imagine that you don't know, there's not the internet where you can easily search things. There's not, all these sorts of technology features and apps that we have today. Before it was an adventure where you needed someone to put down the holy grail of where something was, and you needed to wait 30 days for the next issue of the magazine where you would open it up and you would find out only after someone had made, like the editor had made the editorial cut, and you would get the magazine. You would, it'd be a whole thing. Oh, man, let's go to the shops. Let's go and get it. Yeah. You would buy it, and then you would be looking through it to find out what new stuff was in there.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And that was like leads back to what we were saying about like copying tricks and stuff. Like I would look at the magazine and I'd be like, see these like new tricks being done, like photographs of them, and like then like the next time I went to a skate park, I'd be like, I've got to try that trick, But yeah, like I say, like that for me, like that was like a big turning point when my pal got that car. Like I vividly remember that. It was like we would just like every weekend without fail, we would go like, you know, do some like mad trip. And then the other thing that me and that guy and a few other guys did was we would like build our own dirt jumps. So like he would drive us, it was like, you know, a few towns away. He would drive us to this spot and then we'd all go there and we'd like work on building these dirt jumps.
How would you do it?
Literally with like, you know, spades and like wheelbarrows and just literally just start digging like in the woods, you know, like in the middle.
How long
of the
would that take you?
Man, like hours and hours. Like, yeah, we was like absolutely addicted to it.
Like I'm thinking of, I can think in my mind what a mud ramp would look like. I'm thinking that's a lot of mud.
Oh man.
So it'd be a lot of mud if you were doing this thing, you know, and it's going to be there. I can't imagine like let's show up and build one for you know, doing it for the day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, but obviously, like I said, like
Are you doing it in the woods?
Yeah, in the middle of the woods.
What if you had a tree route?
What while you're riding, you mean?
Yeah, no, I'm saying where you build it, like when you're digging out the mud to make the ramp from.
I mean, well, there's a bit of a fine art to it. Obviously, like when you first like turn up at a place, like if there's no you know, distinct lines where you're going to put them, then you sort of like scope it out, you know, you're like, well, there could be a jump there and then, but there's a tree there. So then this jump needs to go off to the right slightly and then it's going to go around that tree, you know, like you sort of, the terrain dictates what jumps you're going to put where a lot of the time. Unless it's like obviously a more open space, then generally you put them in a straight line. But we was more like, we like to build stuff that was a bit more creative, you know. We would sort of like make these like off-axis kind of like strange dirt jumps that, you know, it would be like a hip that went off to the right and then a hip went off the other way, and it kind of but like I say, a lot of work. Like, you know, to put it into sort of like some sort of context, like I remember specifically there was like one line that we built and we specifically wanted to make this line as big as possible. Like for people that don't have a clue what I'm talking about, a line is just a section of jumps in a row. So you have like generally on dirt jumps, you have a main line, which is like the biggest sort of like straight line. And then you'll have different lines that come off of that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we built this like humongous line off to the side. And one of the landings, obviously you have to build like a takeoff jump and then a landing. One of the landings was like 400 wheelbarrows worth. So like that puts it into context, like how much work we put into it.
How many of you were working on this?
I mean, there was probably like me and my pal with a car. We was like the main guys that done most of the work, but you know, every weekend we'd have people help out. So it'd be, you know, sometimes we'd be lucky, we'd have like 10, 15 of us. Other weekends it would be, you know, absolutely tipping down with rain and it would just be me and him because we was like dedicated. We were like, we're going down
and
there.
Is that English rain or Scottish rain? Because what you call rain is like drizzle.
It's drizzle then, drizzle.
Oh, is it proper rain?
Nah, yeah. I mean, we had been there in proper rain, definitely. But we wasn't, you know, we wasn't shy of it. Let's put it that way. We wasn't fair weather diggers. You know.
I think that plays into what you're doing because there's something hardy and gritty about sort of doing these tricks out in the woods. You know, building it. It's not a sort of prissy sport where you're like,
no. Especially the dirt jump side of BMX. Like, you know, I'd say it's like. Yeah, like you say, it's more gritty, I would say, because it's like it's just you out in the woods, like, and you're jumping so high over some of these jumps, like it's really like, you know, now if I think about it, like it's risky, you know, like I don't know if I would really like do some of the stuff I did back then now for sure, but
So you were saying it was a humongous line. Is it humongous in terms of the height you jump, or humongous in terms of the length?
Both, like,
or humongous in terms of how hard it is?
Just all of the above. Like you know, the takeoff jump was probably at least say 8 feet. And then the gap, I don't know, you're probably talking like 20-foot gap maybe. And then the landing is just absolutely massive. Like I said, 400 wheelbarrows worth. Like it's, you know, it's way over your head height. It's like, you know, 10 feet tall or something, you know? So yeah, it's, you know, and you're hitting this jump at like speed, you know, because you got to get over that huge gap. So, you know, I wouldn't know what speed we're hitting it, but you're going fast.
Was this a place where like you were going, if you built it, nobody was coming around to say, hey, look what you're doing on the land?
No, see, this is a thing with like trails building. A lot of the time it's probably illegal, you know, like, because
I'm just thinking like some dude from the Forestry Commission just showing up like, what in the earth is happened here?
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, for sure. That spot, I don't think it did actually ever happen because it was kind of like real tucked away. Like it was a part that, you know, wasn't really used. Most of the time when you get, you know, caught out with that is because it's like near where people walk their dogs or something like that. And then, you know, some guy comes along walking his dog and he don't like it. So he tells his mate John from the council and then that's it. But
Killjoys.
I know, yeah. But it's like, you know, we've had that happen before because that wasn't the only place we dug jumps at. There was, you know, other places that, you know, we'd come back one day and they was completely flattened, you know, like all the work you put into it's gone, you know. But that one wasn't like that. That kind of just fizzled out because where we got older and we didn't have as much time to put into it anymore. It just sort of like, you know, got left, you know.
So what do you think the appeal is? Well, that kind of outlet was for you because it sounds like you felt, listening to what you're describing there, it sounds like you felt that was really like a strong draw for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess again, it's like a creative thing, right? Like it's me and my pal were like mad scientists. You know what I mean? We're like, right, if we put a jump here and then a landing there, then we can do this. Do you know what I mean? You literally got like this blank canvas of woods and like just a spade, and then like, you know, you're just going to make this like however you sort of envisage this jump to look, you can build it, you know.
Why do you think most people wouldn't do that, and what was it about? What was it that like you and your pal got stuck in? Because it's a lot of work to get that result. Like I get the creative part, but I mean it's a lot of effort to put in there. Like what do you think drove you to go and like, I'm going to put a bit of work into this?
I don't know, man. I think it's just a cool feeling. Like when you sit there and put some, like, you know, put a lot of effort into building something that you've envisaged, and then it comes to life, and then obviously you can't ride it straight away either. This is like you have to plan ahead. You know, you're like
like when you say plan ahead, like what time frame are we talking about?
Months and months, like
months.
Yeah. So like most of the work, generally the way trails work is you do most of the work in the winter, and then you get them to a point where they're almost ready come sort of spring, and then you put the finishing touches on, and then you ride them in the summer. But obviously you have to maintain them the whole time because it's dirt.
How did you find like the occasional tough English dude to buy into this a place full of softies? Like none of this sounds English at all to me.
Yeah.
Like let's go out in the winter.
There's a few tough English people.
I agree with you, but I'm thinking to myself, how did you find them? Because
I don't know.
Let's go out in the winter. Let's plan it months in ahead. John from the council might flatten it because Davey has walked his dog and got pissed off. Yeah. You know, and let's go and do 400 wheelbarrows of dirt.
Yeah.
So that hopefully, if they're all going well, we can get to this point where we can ride it.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. Like that's a huge amount of planning and a huge amount of effort before you even get to the experiencing the thrill.
But that's what I mean. The thrill is what makes it all worth it.
But tell me, what are you feeling with the thrill? Because I haven't rode it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
put me there.
I don't know, man. It's just like it's like one of the biggest adrenaline hits you're ever going to get. Like, you know, like I said earlier about having these like fond memories, like they're all there. Like the feeling of like hitting that jump for the first time. Because this is another thing as well. You put in all this effort, you don't actually know the jumps are going to work because it's a science. You know, you have to get the angle of the ramp right so the trajectory is correct, and you land in that landing. You know, you have to hit it at the exact speed. Because otherwise it's just not going to work. And then the problem is it's a line, like I said. So it's like, you know, usually minimum you'll have 3 jumps in a row. So if that first jump doesn't work, well, the next jump,
it's knocking them all off.
Exactly. So you could have spent all of these hours digging these jumps all winter, and then you go to ride it the first time and it doesn't work. But obviously after time you learn like what does work, you know. how big the gap needs to be for this jump to work.
Are you using any tools, or are you just eyeballing it?
Eyeball, really, yeah.
I don't imagine you were like down at Screwfix getting the spirit level out.
No.
Like, yeah, boys, you've got a 20-degree angle here.
No, definitely
This looks
not.
looking good.
No, I mean, like, yeah, sculpting the takeoff ramp is like a fine art. Like, and some people just can't do it. But me and my pal, we was like really good at it. Like,
Yeah.
I think maybe like, you know, Oh. We said something. I think
She was going to be getting the tools out for you.
yeah, you're getting me pumped up. I'm like, I need to get a spade out and start digging.
I can't believe you were eyeballing it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like I say, me and my pal, we was just like had this like knack for like, I don't know, we could just envisage these things, and a lot of the time we'd agree, you know.
You surely must have got the first couple wrong.
Oh yeah, we definitely got some wrong.
How bad were they?
Oh man, some of them, because like I said, most people, when they build dirt jumps, a lot of the time they just build straight ones because that's the easiest thing to do.
I'm not looking for the technicalities, Thomas. What I'm looking for is the guy jumped off it and hit a tree.
Oh man, that happened. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Oh dude, some bad things. I've seen some horrendous things happen. Like, you know, I won't go into too much detail, but like I've seen guys like break their backs and stuff, like, you know, just because they got it so wrong, you know.
What do you think? Was it your sculpting of the ramps, or was it just they ran out of talent?
Like, you know, I'm not admitting to that. I've never actually sculpted a ramp that's caused someone to hurt themselves, but I've personally seen it go wrong. What
would it be? Just the pitch of the ramp was too high?
And to be fair, it's not
because what you're looking for. What you're looking for is the sort of, you need to get them to the next part. So too high, they go.
Yeah, it can be that. It can also be the rider, of course. It's not all down to the. It's not like you build the ramp and then the rider just comes along and it does it for them. Obviously, you have to use your judgment as a BMX rider. Right, I need this speed. I need to pull up this hard, like, or whatever it is. But obviously, some jumps are just impossible. If you do a tiny little ramp with a huge gap, it's just not going to work. So it's getting that right within a parameter that can work, and then it's like down to the BMXer to then learn how to ride the jump, because, you know, it might be like, oh, this jump kicks you up quite a bit, so you need to push forward as you go off it, or vice versa. You know, the takeoff might be too shallow, so you actually need to pull up, because otherwise you're going to land way too far, you know. I'm
trying to think of what it's like in your mind, because it would be, right, your focus is on this great line, right? So you focus, like, this is going to be the great line of this. We're going to put all the work in. So you feel driven, like, this is going to be cool. So you take all this action to get all this mud and shape it all the prep work. I'm sure you probably enjoyed that risky element of, is it going to be there?
Oh, yeah,
is that
definitely.
a whole surprise? You're like, well, this could be gone.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you probably feel that excitement. It's still here. And then it's getting closer. And then you sort of like, will it work? Will it not? You know, and you're thinking about what it would be like if it worked, what it might be if you don't, what could we change, what could we adjust? Because, you mean, it's clear you have an eye for detail, and you have a sort of psychopathic perfectionist mentality. And I'm thinking to myself, this would be the sort of pattern that you're going through of what it might be like, because you've got the creative element. I can see it. Because creative people would essentially visualize something before it's there. They can see what it would be like. They can experience and feel the textures, how it needs to look before it materializes. So that's what I imagine you're doing with these jumps. You're like, well, I can see, you go into this forest, you can see it, and you're going, right, I can visualize what this is going to be like. That's the creative part, where you can visualize, right, if we put that there, we can create this huge line. The line's a path for everyone that doesn't go there yet. The path that the bike would take over these jumps. So you're visualizing that, and then you go into putting the effort in to build it. You dodge John from the council. Right? John from the council. The work shy friends have decided to show up that day that it's dry. You got all these wheelbarrows. You get your bike, first attempt, and you nail it. What does it feel like?
Oh man, like I said, it's the biggest shot of adrenaline you'll ever experience.
But where does the adrenaline come from? Because I'm thinking to myself, how would we label these emotions? Like one of the great things that you can spot with people is if they get the right emotion. Because I was thinking to myself, right, adrenaline, it's a rush, right? So it's a thrill, right? Well, yeah, but that you could do that with anything. Why this?
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, well, you've got. I think there's a sense of freedom that you get from doing it. Right? There's a sense of achievement that you get from building it.
It's all that.
So it's that hard work pays off, right? So hard work is paid off. Then you get this sense of achievement when you nail it, and you have this sense of freedom and joy when you're out there doing the thing that you love. But you stand back and you go, I visualised this.
Exactly.
Before any of you rode this on your bike, I seen this in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's the whole masterpiece of here's my creative element. Technically, I need to figure out how to make it happen so I can see it how it needs to be. And then technically we need to position it. And then you've got the whole, because a lot of the people don't realise this, is whoever made us, call it God or whoever, has a sense of humour. We need a certain degree of certainty in our life. And we also need a certain degree of uncertainty in our life. And that because we like stimulation. We like that sense of adventure. That's why we try new things. And I'm looking at that with what you're doing there. And you're going, well, the degree of certainty that you have is like, we're going to show up, and if we put in the work, it would be a great reward. But then also the other side of it is the uncertainty. It could be taken away at any minute, and it might not work. So it's that whole sort of excitement part, and then imagine what it's like when it all comes together. That's the ultimate buzz. Because any one of them are great. Sense of achievement, really good. Nailing a jump, really, really good. Right? Amazing line, awesome. Right? But all of those together where you've visualized something, you've put in the work, and it all works. That's the ultimate high.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then to like go further than that, it's like you're not just building these jumps just for yourself. You're building them for other people to ride as well. So like, you know, when you get to summer, and then you know you can share them with your pals, and then they hit the jumps for the first time, and then it like leads back to that same thing I was saying about when you're your friends at school look over and see your work, and they go, oh, that's amazing. It's the same thing. They look at the jumps and go,
you
whoa.
Start to put your style into, you can see that that's leaving your mark, because you're like, this is the way that I would do it, and that's your style coming through.
Or even also like proving people wrong as well. Like we all love that, right? Like people will turn up to the jumps when they're half built and go, that ain't gonna work, and you go, you see, you know, and then sure enough it works. Then you go, told you it was going to work, you know.
But just that whole thing, let your haters hang around long enough, and over time they become your fans. It's always the ones that said, it's never going to work, and they turn around to be your biggest fans, because when you nail it, it's like, well, you know, they all have their place. Yeah. So what age were you when you were doing this?
So this was probably around similar sort of time to when, like I said, I was like doing the filming and stuff. So maybe like 16 to like 18, maybe somewhere around then. Maybe even longer than that, actually. I don't know. There was a long period, maybe even up until I was like 20, you know. But we put some graft.
I'm thinking to myself, right, so what have we got so far? We've got, like, you're trying to figure yourself out. I actually think that you don't like being shoehorned into something. You like to be free, right? All the things that you've done is about being more, you want to be more free. You want to be more creative. You don't want to be told that you need to be this or you need to be that. But that growing up was difficult because you're in a system that wants you to look a certain way, that wants your appearance a certain way, that wants certain things. You're being pigeonholed, and you had the resistance to being pigeonholed. So this resistance was displayed in the things that you would seek, and you were seeking this adventure because that adventure made you feel free. And then you were looking to find a place that you could belong, because I mean, we're social creatures. We like to feel part of something, but you didn't fit in the traditional, like what was considered normal, school, the same clothes, the same type of music. You found the love of hip hop, BMXing, all sort of fringe stuff, and then you found people that like the same sort of things as you, and then you're starting to develop your own style, which is that creative elements coming out. You were finding an outlet because you didn't want to be pigeonholed, but you wanted to let your natural flow come out, and that's where it started to develop into this, right, let's see this vision, the creative element, let's build this. And you were finding the type of people that were like you that go, yeah, I quite like that. And that was interesting. That imagine how impactful. I mean, I know you probably didn't think at the time, looking back now, but imagine how impactful that is for knowing that to follow what you feel right, right? To not feel that you need to be a sheep and just, go along with everything, right? To trust yourself that you go, look, I'm not going to just fall to the societal pressure of doing that. And then to then let how you can visualize things come out, and then put your style, and then also go as far to put in the work. So you're developing the work ethic, you're developing the resistance not to fold, right? That's creating durability, that's creating endurance, that's creating that, grit and determination. Because, you don't get that on, obviously English wet days are different from Scottish wet days, but, you're not getting, that takes a lot of effort over a long period of time. So you need to have, that needs to be your heart and your soul that goes into it. And that was a place that was doing it. And think of what it was like at 16, 17 years old to be doing that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Because when you look at the traditional route of 16, 17-year-olds, what they're doing, same music, same stuff, and like they're not going out into the woods and building themselves 400 wheelbarrows of
I think it obviously definitely had like an impact on me, and it helped me to like find who I wanted to be maybe quicker than like other people maybe would, because the longer you like stay in that sort of like revolution of like just keep like copying other people and just doing what you think you're supposed to do, you don't find out who, like you say, who you really are. And I think coming from that, and then obviously this was around the same sort of time that I started getting interested in tattoos. And then that was just another thing again.
Sounded like a natural progression: hip hop, BMXing, building ramps in the woods, skateboarding. Like if tattoos missed you were like it would have been a minor miracle at this point.
I mean, I always knew I wanted tattoos. Like ever since I was like way younger than that. Like when I was real young, like 10 or whatever, like I always said I wanted to get tattoos. And strangely enough, like my stepdad had tattoos, and like I absolutely hated my stepdad. But one of the things that I thought was cool about him was he had tattoos. That was
what did you think was cool about it?
I don't know. I think especially then, not many people had them. So again, it was like, it's a bit different, you know. His tattoos were absolutely horrendous. Like, I'm not just saying this because he was an arsehole, but he had some of the worst tattoos I've ever
Thomas,
seen.
why don't you tell us what you really think?
But I don't care. Like, he deserves everything. But
shit tattoos.
Yeah,
he could have done a lot better job than he did.
Oh yeah. But like I say,
but we're going to find the silver lining on this dark cloud.
Yeah, exactly. So
his tattoos.
Yeah, that was the positive thing that he gave me. If anything, was it led me towards tattoos, and from then I was like, I'm going to get some tattoos.
He must have done a piss poor job if that was the thing you hung your hat on. Right, his tattoos were naff. And he didn't do a good job, but the only thing was like the tattoo as an idea was cool to you.
Yeah, like I say, it wasn't what he had because they were horrendous. It was the idea of having one, and like not many other people have got them at that point, It was a bit of a uncouth thing to do. Like, I don't know, I just found it interesting, and I thought, and also obviously it's the art element as well. It's like you get to pick what you have, It's you can express yourself. So yeah, like I started, like I say, I knew from a young age I wanted them, but then around that same sort of time, obviously when I got to 18, the day I hit 18, I went and got my first tattoo because I was gagging to get one,
Why 18?
Because that's the law.
Oh, you were sticking to the law?
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have, but I mean, I'm not a tall guy now, but I was even smaller then. Like I was real short for my age, and I couldn't like fucking grow a beard until I was like in my 20s, you know. So yeah, I would have never, there was people I knew who managed to go into a tattoo shop and go, yeah, I'm 18 when they were 16, but that was never going to be me. They'd be like, yeah, all right, mate. So I had to wait. But yeah, sure enough, like I said, I was determined that I was going to get tattoos.
What was your first tattoo?
Oh, it's long gone now underneath all that black.
Was it that bad? You just fucking
No, it was actually really good. It was actually really good. And funnily enough, the guy that actually taught me how to tattoo was the guy that done my first tattoo. So it was, You
paid homage to him by covering the whole thing in black.
Well, he actually blacked over it. So at least I got him to do
that.
Okay.
So how long was it between you? When did you know that tattooing was going to be a thing for you? When did you go, look, that's what I'm into. I'm going to go for that.
What, as a career or?
Yeah, so like, did you get a tattoo straight away and go, hey, look, I'm going to be a tattoo artist?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I probably, like I said, I got my first tattoo when I was 18.
Because I can't imagine you. I'm just picturing in my mind, I'm like, right, Thomas with a shirt and a tie on, with shoes, going into, I'm like, nah.
No.
Was that ever you?
No. I mean, I have, like, when I was real young, like, I did have some normal jobs. Like, I worked in a supermarket for a very short period of time until I wanted to kill myself and was like, not literally.
Were you trying to bunny hop any of the trolleys while you were in there?
Oh yeah, I did. I definitely got up some mischief, but yeah, I mean, I tried to do a normal job and it just weren't for me. And then obviously it was at like college and that, and then like I say, I started getting tattooed and.
How were you finding I don't know if I'm maybe picking you up wrong, but did you struggle to conform and fit into like the indoctrination system that we call education? Because I can imagine that must have been tricky for you to be the education system always tries to put you in a pigeonhole. Mm-hmm. It silos you to doing one particular thing. Yeah, I just think that doesn't fit for.
Yeah, I mean, certainly
the guy that you're describing. I'm like that.
Yeah, when I was at school, like before all of this, like they definitely tried to do that to me, and like like when you go to like I don't know what they call it, but it's the thing where they like say what they think you should do as a career and stuff like this.
Career officer.
Yeah. So like they would like suggest things, and I'd be like,
what did they say?
Well. I can't actually remember, but it wasn't anything I was interested in anyway. But I always had in my head, like years and years before all of this, like I can't remember even who it was, but someone in my family basically saw that I was doing these drawings, and a lot of the drawings I'd done were like really technical drawings. I used to like drawing with like rulers and stuff, and like. I don't know, just creating these really technical drawings.
So, like for instance, people that don't get that, you like, for instance, drawing a building with
exactly, like things like intricate. That. This makes me sound like a right weirdo, but one of the things I used to be obsessed with was like drawing room plans. Like like a bird's eye view, like a proper when you do like a design for a house. Yeah. I used to I would draw a picture of my room, and then I would to scale, I would draw like the sofa or whatever, like how I saw my room, and I would like plan out how I could put things in my room. So boring. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, someone in my family saw this and was like, "Do you know what you should be? An architect." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Like I'd never thought about it, and I was a young kid,
It's a good job they've seen that in you, not as like a psychopathic killer.
Yeah, well, there's probably definitely some sort of touch there.
Like the usual kids, when they're doing that type of thing, they're going to make a movie about you when you're older.
Yeah, it's like, I think like, I don't know. Yeah, like.
Did you have a scale ruler?
Oh, well, I would do it. I would work it all out. So I would take measurements.
You're sounding even more.
I would take measurements of my room, and then I would do it by ratio down to the paper so that I knew exactly how big everything was, So like my bed, I would measure my bed, and then I would do it to scale. I don't know why. I was just I like numbers, and I was, I was always good at like maths, without really trying. It just was something that was came to me. So yeah, that all sort of tied in. And then, but yeah, like I say, someone suggested I should be an architect, and I was like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
I think you've got many, many years of therapy that you probably need to go through. Well, we could probably make a dent in it in this podcast, but we're not definitely going to do more work.
Oh, don't. Yeah, you're not far wrong, mate. But yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I that was always in my head. I was like, from a young age, I was like, oh, I'm probably going to try and be an architect, But then in reality,
you as an architect.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to be. But that was
like
just.
I get that piece. Like, and if you looked at that piece, you would go, "Yeah, that fits." But just for what you've described, the other pieces, I'm like, "No, this doesn't fit."
Yeah, but no one really had a conversation with me like that, Like, and,
did it seem like that? Like, when you go, like, "Yeah, I understand why that bit fits," but did whoever suggest that to you not really know the rest of the parts?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess it was just, like when you're a kid and you're like, I don't know what I want to be when I'm older. It was just a case of they was going, this is what you should do. Yeah. And then I just sort of run with it. And, I can't remember how old I was, but I was quite young, let's just say I was 10. So from 10 to like right up until like leaving school, that was what I had in my head. I'm like, I want to be an architect because I sort of like drilled it into my head. But then obviously, to be an architect, you have to do a lot of work that's very boring. You have to like study maths, physics, all this stuff, which I was interested in, but I think only really because I had that goal to be an architect, But then, as you start to sort of find out who you are more, like we were saying, and you get involved with these different people, then you start to think, well, actually, like you say, that doesn't really fit with who I am. And then,
I mean, I've dealt with many architects, and they're lovely people and wonderful in every way. But I've not met one that I thought I'd like to have dinner with you. I don't know what a dinner conversation would be like, and I'm not desperate to investigate that.
Yeah.
They've got the place. They're wonderful people, but
it's probably for the best that I didn't go down that path.
It's a square peg in a round hole sort of situation.
Yeah.
In hindsight, it's been a wonderful choice that you didn't go down that route.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I can't like now to think of like having to do that same sort of thing over and over again. Like, it's just and to be fair, like that sort of like leads into like the next thing that I did after that was graphic design. And that again was a similar sort of thing. It was like, it was creative, but I felt very like constricted. I was like, the first job I did in graphic design was, they call them proofers. It's basically when you get submitted artwork and you just have to check it and make sure that it's like correct. So you don't really actually get to do much. Like every now and again, you'll get to do like some tweaks or whatever, but it was so boring. And like, yeah, that was my first job. Like, I was kind of grateful that I was doing something that was mildly interesting to me, but at the same time, I was like, I cannot do this forever, And then that was like, luckily at the same time that I then got interested in tattoos.
But I think if you continued on that career path, that imagine 20 years suppressed as a proofer in graphic design, I reckon you'd have taken up a career in serial killing and buried the bodies in your BMX trail. You'd have cracked.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like hell. Taking that creative essence and just smothering the life out of it till one day it pops.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, I mean, I worked that job for, I think, like a year or so. And that was enough for me. Like, and the first opportunity I got, like, in tattoos, like, they were sort of like overlaying, like whilst I was doing that, I was like getting into tattoos. The first opportunity I got to like start working, doing tattoos like full time, I was just like, boom.
How did it come about?
Well, so like, as I said, the guy that did my first ones, he, looking back at it now, like I think like I was probably such an annoying customer because I'd turn up with these designs that I wanted to get tattooed, and they were like ready to go. I had like meticulously like planned out where it was going, what size. I'd even given him like, because I knew I don't know how I knew, but I think maybe talking to some friends that had got tattoos before, I knew a little bit about the process. So I knew that they'd used a stencil, which was obviously just made up of lines. And then they had the shaded version, which is the finished product. So I would actually turn up with a shaded version and a line work version and be like, right, this one's, ready to go. So like really annoying customer because like I hate people like that now because it gives you no freedom to create, you know, as an artist, I'm turning up to shout out to Bert Thomas, the guy I'm talking about. I turn up to him with these ready to go things, and he's probably sitting there going, "Oh, come on, man! Like, let me have some sort of creative input." But anyway, he didn't say that. He did it. But the thing was, I didn't expect. He saw something in what I was presenting to him that, you know, I had a flair for it or whatever. I don't know. I never connected the two. I was in graphic design mindset. So I was doing all these designs on the computer, and then giving them to him. But he obviously saw something. He was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, this guy could probably tattoo," you know? And then, I over a few times, I think it was, you know, he did my first maybe 4 or 5 tattoos before it even came up. But then he just sort of, you know, like I said, he saw something in me, and then I think he just came out with it. He was just like, "Would you ever, like, you know, want to learn how to do tattoos?" And I was like, do you know what? Like, maybe, like, you know, I hadn't thought about it up until that point, but like I say, I was getting kind of bored with the graphic design stuff, and I thought, well, yeah, I haven't got a concrete plan what I'm doing. You know, I was 19 at this point, and I was like, yeah, like, if you'll teach me.
Did they say it like from a place of sincerity, or did they think, "Kid, you want to go and try this with your designs and shading and process?" Like, was he sort of like, did he see the flair, and was he sort of like, "Do you want to give it a go?" Like, how did it come about? Like, how did you go? Did he, like, is it just a case of like, "Do you want to do this full time," or did they ease you in where he says, like, "Do you want to try it?"
It was definitely an ease in kind of process. I think at the very start, so basically it was kind of a perfect storm. So like, he, just as I started to get tattoos by him, he was just about to venture out on his own and open his own shop. And so at that time, obviously, I was like, I don't know if you know much about like relationships with like customers and tattoo artists, but it's like a very like close thing. It's like, once you find an artist that you really love, you will keep going back to them. And that's how I felt with Bert. It was like, he done my first one, you know? So I was like, this guy's the man, you know? He's done this awesome tattoo on me. So then I got a few more. And then, like I say, as he opened his own shop, I started going there to get tattoos. And
I didn't realize how important that was. You know, what you're mentioning, it was until I'd picked up when I had Mikey on. I've known Mikey for years and didn't realize that relationship and what it meant. And it's interesting because Mikey is not someone that you would come across as, like, even just looking at him, you don't think this guy is going to be compassionate and empathetic and a listening ear and good at that relationship. And I remember speaking to him, like, man, this is really sort of a profound thing. Like, this is not just a case of you go in, somebody draws on you. Like, this is a whole sort of you know, experience. And then when I had Chris on, and he was like really, like, he was even more kind of on the whole relationship side of it. I'm like, man, it's deep.
Yeah, properly, yeah.
And that was the thing, like you mentioned earlier on, because when you were talking about the COVID situation, it was like, that was the thing that made a lot of tattoo artists pop, because that outlet, and not the outlet just in the technical part of how you do your role, but the taking people on a journey and that experience. And it was like that rush of taking someone from an idea, a concept, what they want, shaping that into something, then making it materialize, and being through that whole process with them. It's a huge thing.
Oh, massively.
And I thought she's going to get tattooed. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. I mean, there is some artists like that for sure. It's just like a job to them, and they'll just, you know, you walk in and you pick one off the sheet and they slap it on and job done. But then obviously there's other people that, it's a much bigger thing, and they want to make it a special experience for you, you know, because it is, at the end of the day, it's like you're getting something on your skin for life, you know, and you're the one putting it on. The thing that always blows my mind is, I think back to all of the thousands of people I've tattooed over the years. Every single one of them will never forget who I am, because all they have to do is look at that tattoo and they'll remember me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just mind blowing. It's like, I can't remember 1,000 people. How do 1,000 people remember me? You know? But it's cool. Like you say, like making it an experience, and like, just really like, and just helping people get through it as well, because this is painful, obviously. So like, just listening to people, like, when they're in pain, like trying to like anything you can do to make it less painful, or however you need to deal with that person. Everyone's different. Some people will just sit like rock and you don't have to worry about the pain thing. And then in those situations, you're just having like friendly chat. But then other people, it's like you're really having to work with them to get them through the whole thing,
How do you navigate that? Like, what's the tips and tricks that you use to help people get through it? I
don't know. I guess for me, like, obviously I'm quite particular with certain things. So
no way. Come on now, Thomas. Come on.
So like, it will start off with me like before the tattoo's even begun. I'll walk them through like, how to prepare for the tattoo. So, 2 weeks out, you need to start exfoliating your skin, moisturizing every day. So you get your skin in tip-top condition. So it's like going to accept the ink better. It's going to, the skin's not going to be as tough. So it's going to make it easier for me to tattoo, which is going to cause you less pain, So all these things. And then leading up to like the day before, have a nice carby meal, like load up, you need your energy. Breakfast before you come. Like so many people, it blows my mind how many people turn up to a tattoo, haven't eaten. It's like,
why is that important?
Well, it's, because if you've got no fuel in you, and then your body's going to have to then deal with pain all day, you're very easy, you're going to hit the deck. Because, I've seen it happen to people. Like, they come in and they come for a tattoo, they haven't eaten, you start tattooing, and mate, within 10 minutes, they've like fainted or something. It's like it happens quite a lot.
I felt like me yesterday on a bike ride.
Yeah, it's like it happens, man. But so like to stop that from happening as much as possible. Yeah, I tell them these things. Like make sure you get a decent feed in. Be well hydrated. Like all the kind of things. It leads quite nicely.
I can't tell if you're caring or psychotic or both. Just try to figure this out.
But
I don't know where the psychopath ends and the caring begins. I'm trying to figure this out here.
Well, it definitely does help, man. Like it's if you don't prepare for a tattoo, man, it's like. Are you
really regimented? Do you check in with people and be like, have you done that yet?
I'm not beforehand, but like definitely on the day of the tattoo, I'll be like, have you eaten this morning? And if they say no, I'll send them off to the calf to get something. Because I'm not, there's no point in me risking it, like so many times I have these like big geezers turn up and I'm like, have you eaten breakfast? They're like, no, I don't really usually eat breakfast. I'm like, mate, go to the calf now. I'm like, you don't need to try and act hard in here, mate. Like, just go eat a bacon sarnie or whatever, come back. And then we'll do your tattoo, because it's like, it does make a massive difference, I've even experienced it myself. Like, I've got a fair few tattoos. Like, it's...
for the listeners, anyone that's listening to the podcast, Thomas is literally covered in tattoos. A shout out to Matt, because I don't know how they've done this. I think we discussed this on the bike ride. Like how your tattoos show through your bib shorts but don't show your particulars. Their R&D department have done a really good job.
Yeah, I don't know how they manage that. Yeah,
because for people who don't understand, but cyclists will generally ride in a line, one rider up behind another, because they're looking for the aerodynamic benefit of somebody pushing the wind out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
The side effect of that is generally you're looking at the guy's fucking derriere. and after 4 days of riding, I'm like, how is it they've managed to do this? Because I don't know what tattoos you've got on your quite reasonably. I shouldn't know what you have on your derriere.
I can show you if you want.
I seen them.
You've seen part of it.
I seen them. Like, how have they done this? Because when you cycle, one of the things that you want to make sure is your bib shorts don't wear out. Because if they do, you can be giving the guy a view that he's maybe not want to. He's going to be getting winked at that he doesn't particularly want to see.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, yeah, fair play. So you were saying you had big guys in, and you've sent them to the shop for a bacon sandwich, bacon sarnie, right? Because they're rocking up. They think they're solid. Have you had any shockers? Any really bad ones?
Oh, well, yeah, I've had like loads of people pass out on me before. Yeah,
Is that
the one that I can think of that was the absolute worst was a guy. This was in like one of the first tattoo shops I worked in. It was like the bit that I had set up all my machine on and stuff was basically like a kitchen counter, but it didn't have any like drawers or anything underneath. So it was just like a bare kitchen counter with like nothing underneath. And anyway, like, I was tattooing him, and then the way I don't do this now, but back then the way I used to tattoo on arms was just I'd sit them in a chair and just like rest their arm on like a stool or something. Whereas now I put them in like a proper bed, you know. But so yeah, he's like perched on this like chair with his arm out, and then I just wasn't paying attention. He's obviously, because the problem is when people pass out, again, because I don't know, they think they're tough or whatever, they don't say anything. You know, they just think, oh no, I feel a bit funny, but they don't actually say anything. So a lot of the time you don't catch it because, you know, before you know it, it's too late. They're gone.
But they're trying to hold on.
They're like, I don't know whether they've fainted before or not, so they don't know what it is. But obviously, I personally haven't ever fainted, so I don't know. But I know from experiencing it, it's like it comes like a wave. You know, it's like all of a sudden they start getting a bit sweaty, and like, you know, the blood rushes out of their face, and then apparently like the hearing goes, so it's all a bit like muffled, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And by that point, it's almost too late because it's like you're going. But yeah, most of the time people don't say anything. Some people, when they start feeling a bit hot and funny, they say something and then you can catch it. And sometimes they don't go then. But anyway, so this guy, the one that I can think of what was the worst, he just so happened to be at the exact right trajectory to fall off the chair and crack his nose right on the kitchen counter, because he's gone forward like that and just gone whack, and his nose has just gone boom everywhere, like blood everywhere. He's face down. As he hit the edge, he's then gone under the counter as well. So it's like he's all like curled up, blood everywhere under the counter. I'm like, oh my God, like, you know, this was years ago. So I was like 20, 21 or something. So I'm like a young guy, like with this big dude, like, I'm fucking, like, what's going on? But yeah, I mean,
and people don't realize. I mean, picking people up is hard, but when somebody's passed out, it's a dead weight,
mate. Yeah, no chance.
Like it's so difficult to lift someone.
Yeah. I've tried to catch people a few times and like had them fall on top of me. Like I had a pal of mine who's a tattoo artist as well. I done a tattoo for him once, and he passed out on me, and luckily he was like a real skinny guy, and I literally caught him in my arms, and then I had to like lift him onto the bed.
So romantic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, give him a little kiss as well. But
that's the client relationship, really next level stuff there.
Yeah. You got to whisper sweet nothings in their ear.
Did it work?
Yeah.
This will make you heal better.
But yeah, he's that guy in particular. He's a funny guy. A guy called Phil Yarnell. He's I used to work with him, and he's a proper crazy dude. Like, wild character.
Why did he not let you know? Surely he would have known if he was a tattoo artist.
I would probably say like knowing Phil, because he is a bit strange. He probably likes it in a weird way or something. I don't know. He's never said that to me, but I would imagine he's that kind of guy that would be like, likes the trip of passing out.
And was it the trip of passing out, or was it you catching him in his arms?
Probably both. Probably both. Knowing him, probably both.
Right.
Yeah, he's a strange. I love him to bits, but he's a proper strange character.
You should choose your words carefully here, Thomas.
But yeah,
this reel will be getting diced up beautifully.
Oh, shit. Oh.
So he passed out, like no projectile vomiting, no sick.
Oh, I've had that. Yeah, I've had that as well. Yeah,
people defecating themselves, peeing themselves.
No, that's the one thing I haven't ever had. I've had someone piss their pants. I've had someone puke on themselves. Like I said, smash their nose. Like all sorts of stuff. But yeah, never out that end. But yeah, thankfully.
That's because if not ate, because you told them they should eat.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you do. It is unfortunately part of tattooing, really. Like, you know, as time's gone on, obviously I've learned more about, like I say, telling them to do these things, which really helps. Drinking sugary drinks throughout the tattoo. All these things help for you to resist it. But then, like I say, being able to catch those signs when someone's going to go.
And do you prep them beforehand, or do you not want to sow the seed?
No. Yeah,
because if you start sowing the seed,
so this is a funny story. So in the first tattoo shop I worked in, full time anyway, that we had this stupid thing that we had. It was like a board on the wall, and each of our names, the tattoo artists, and then a number underneath. And that number was how many people had passed out. And people would always ask what it was. And the second you tell them that that's the amount of people that passed out on you, they'd go like that. It was like placebo or something. Yeah, whatever. So I learned from that you don't tell people about it, because obviously, they start getting in their head. And, someone who's not that nervous before a tattoo, all of a sudden they're getting really nervous because they're like, oh, hang on a minute. I didn't even think I could possibly pass out, So now, I don't mention it, but I'm very careful. Like when I first start, most of the time, if someone's going to pass out, it's in the first 10 minutes because it's like, it's where they've built themselves up. It's like
a response to what they're doing.
They're really nervous, and then I think what it is, I'm not a doctor, but I think it's like where they've built it up so much, and then especially with people who have never had a tattoo before, it's like that relief, because it's not as bad as you think. When you get your first one, you blow it out of proportion. You're like, oh my God, it's going to feel like my arm's getting cut off. Yeah. But then when it's not that bad, I think it's like all that build up. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's not that bad. But that like the contraction and whatever, I think that brings on someone passing out if they're prone to it. So anyway, it usually happens within that first 10 minutes. And so in that first 10 minutes, I just watch them like a hawk.
You always had that kind of sense of empathy, like that feel, or is it something that's developed since you started tattooing? You seem to have a good sense of, judging how someone's feeling.
I don't really know, to be honest. I think I would say, doing tattoos on people definitely helps with that. Yeah, because you do have to. Like
you were caring about one of my friends that was riding that I didn't want you to care about. It was one of my suffer.
Yeah, I mean,
you had a sort of sixth sense of, I can see that you're maybe going to struggle a little bit or suffer. Yep. Which I thought you must be really in tune with that. And it made me think at the time, despite it was not going the way I wanted it to go, which I wanted it to be in the Sufferfest, I thought, it's got quite an interesting sort of, sense of like an intuitive sense of how someone might be feeling.
Yeah, I think especially when you've been through something yourself, you know how it feels, right? So it's like, wanting to help someone not have to go through something you've been through, whatever.
I was prepared to put them through that.
Yeah, I know you was. But I was trying to be like, as nice as I could be.
This is where we get back. This is sort of leaning more to the caring end, not the psychopath end. That's a strange line here.
It's blurring.
Yeah. So, did that something that you noticed when you started tattooing, or did you notice that beforehand?
I couldn't say, to be honest. Like, I guess, I mean, I guess, obviously I do care about people, and like, you like I said, if you've been through something, you want to try and help people not have to go through it, or, life's tough, isn't it? Like, if you can help someone, then why not, So, there's certain points in my life where I could have done with help and I haven't had it, and, it's,
was that getting tattooed?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what the funny thing is? Like, people always say, like, because I've got so many, they think that I'm going to be really good at getting tattoos, but I am so bad at getting tattoos. Like, I honestly, it's especially the more I've got, it's just become something I absolutely detest. Like, from the second I start getting it done, I'm like, I just want this to be over. Like, it's just awful. It's not for me anymore. I will get them, but very, very infrequent now, because I just can't handle it. So it's not good.
So you took up road cycling. I don't know. Out the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah.
Because I've seen how fast you go. I'm like, this much tattooing can't be that bad. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think with cycling though, like it's different because obviously, yeah, it hurts, but you're getting to choose how much pain you cause yourself, you know? Whereas with a tattoo, it's out of your hands, really. It's like you just have to sit there and take it. Whereas like really like on a bike, it's like, you know, you're the one that plans the route that you're going to do that day. Like if you're not feeling up to it, you can just do a small route, or you don't have to go full gas everywhere and just like rip the pedals off the bike. You know, you can take it easy, but obviously, yeah, I do like to push it on the bike.
I noticed. I noticed that.
It's good fun, though, isn't it?
It was. I mean, I was going along, and I'm like, I didn't know wind sounded like this at this speed. You're trying to follow behind you, and I'm like, whoa, this is fast. And it's that when you go, look, we're really moving here. So it was an experience. I actually looked at the data because like the numbers, because the numbers of what it said in the segment don't portray the numbers that happened through the segment.
Right.
So I'll show them when we got off here. I looked at it, I thought I knew there was something up there. So I'll show you them. I'll show you them once we get off here. You were saying something there. You said there was some times in your life that you could have done with some help. What stands out to you?
I don't know, man. I don't know, just like especially when you're a kid, and like we were saying, like when you're trying to figure out like who you are and stuff, and like I never really had like a close relationship with like my mum or my dad, so like they never really sort of gave much input into like me growing up. You know, they so yeah, I think that was like, why I then like turned to like, finding out who I was in my own way, because just, I don't know.
One of the, like, what, looking back now, if you could go and talk to the kid then, what help would you have given him?
I think just like maybe at times, like I would doubt like, whether going and doing something a bit different from the norm was the right thing to do. I think I would just say, just do whatever makes you happy, like whatever you think's right, just go for it. Like, and if it ain't right, then at least you tried, I think, when you're a kid, you tend to like second guess yourself a lot.
Like self-doubt?
Yeah, I think, just like, am I doing the right thing or whatever?
Do you feel lonely?
What, now?
No, then?
Oh, yeah, at times for sure, yeah. Like, especially like I say, when you're going through that like change of like trying to find out who you are, it's like it can feel lonely because especially if there's not many, you haven't got many friends that are like in a similar situation, you haven't got many people to turn to, and then like I say, didn't have that relationship with my parents where I could like talk openly about things like that, so it was just like I don't know, you just have to find your own way, and then friends you make, you turn to them. For things.
So imagine out there's a kid that was just like you. He's listening to this podcast. What would you tell him?
Just be yourself. Don't worry. Don't worry about what the kids at school are doing, or don't try and fit in. Just be you. Whatever interests you, go for it. Pursue it. Like there's no right answer really, is there? Especially at that age, it's like. Just do whatever you might think is going to make you happy, and at some point he's going to make you happy. So you're gonna find your way one way or another. But also like reach out to people. Like if you're like in a situation where you're like confused about something, like talk to people about it. Because. Like I said, even though I didn't really feel like I had anyone to turn to, I probably could have. But like you get.
Why do you think you never reached? Why do you think you decided not to when there was a possibility that it would have been okay?
Like I said, just like especially with my family, like we didn't have that like close connection where it was like you just would talk about openly about like your thoughts and feelings. So it was like So I never felt like I could. Maybe I could have, but I don't know. Like it's when you're a kid, you're not really in tune with like the complexities of like how your mind works and stuff. So you just sort of tend to like bottle it up, whereas like
how young did you, like what age, what was the youngest age you remember feeling that?
I don't know. I mean, like my parents split up when I was like really, really young. So like, this was like from when I was a little kid, like it's, it was always a bit like disjointed, like my relationships with my parents, because it was like, I would see my dad on the weekend and then like stay with my mum the rest of the week and stuff. And it's like you never really get that like close bond, because it's like it just feels like very disjointed. And I think that was.
Do you feel unsettled? Do you feel unsettled by it then?
What now?
No, then.
Oh, okay. I mean,
generally
tough,
what happens is that you feel something and it ripples through the rest of your life. And at some point that ripple gets to a point where you go, I need to fix that. And you normally need to find out what point started the ripple.
Yeah.
Because you can do like all the things that happen out that way, like they'll never fix it. They never resolve it. It's just the consequence of it. But it's more about where did it start. And one of the greatest ways that you can do it is you can say, well, I've learned that, like, say 6-year-old Thomas that is going through that and feels that way and feels isolated and feels a bit lost, feels that they don't, like the mode that you're describing there, don't reach out, keep it to yourself, bottle it up, try and handle the emotions best you can, even though they don't make you feel great, a bit isolated, a bit lost, a bit unsure, full of doubt. Right, and those ripples continue all the way through life, and at some point you either address them or something shows up where you go, oh, I need to fix this. If you try and fix them with the stuff out here and they never get resolved, it's more about when you say to yourself, well, what would I say to 6-year-old Thomas? And that's when you tie the loose end, because you have all this wisdom and experience of life that you've got now, but the feelings of when you were back then. And that's the classic way of doing it, is you go, what would you tell him? What would you say to him? You probably say, look, kid, you don't need to worry. I know how you feel. I understand how you feel. I know it must feel lonely, a bit isolated, that you maybe feel that people don't care. Right? But that's just how you feel. Like, you're going to get through it. You're going to be all right. And it's going to get good. It's going to get better. Just find your way, find your path. Yeah. Right? And it's about saying that to him then, rather than who you are today. And that's when you can it's like, I always describe it's about like your life is a filing cabinet of all these experiences that you have. And when you run through your filing cabinet, when you do something, you find the closest experience that's in that filing cabinet. You go, oh yeah, that's how I react. So when you later in life, you find the experience, and that experience might be loneliness or doubt, and it takes you back to there. But what we can be guilty of is we don't update the filing cabinet. So you've rode bikes and BMXs and became a tattoo artist and had all these things that should make you feel confident and should make you feel worthy and sure of yourself. But somewhere, if you don't update the filing system, you go back into the filing cabinet, you pull it out, you go, well, you should probably feel lonely and bottle it up, and you should doubt yourself. But, you maybe want to go back into the filing cabinet, pull it out and go, do you know what, kid, we've done a lot. And that was how you felt then, but I think we need to update the records, because you've done a fair lot of great things since then, and we need to put them in the folder so that when you put it back in the filing cabinet, and then the experience comes around again, you've got the updated version. And that can be sometimes the things that can really, really help. Because what I've seen when I help people and I coach them is that they're trying to deal with the thing out there. So that event, the symptom of it is, usually they're not getting the result. They're lashing out. They're not behaving the way that they want. They struggle with relationships. They struggle with how they feel. They struggle with doubt. And it's never like, that's all the things out there. They've never went back to the point that caused it. And it's usually within there. And a great way of doing it is like, what would you say to that kid? What would you say to young Thomas? That can be a really, really great thing to do. And it's something that's within, something you can do. And you don't need anybody else to do it. But it can, when you want to do that work, and something happens in your life, you need to you need to make the decision. The fork in the road comes where you go, look, you either keep continuing doing what you're doing and letting this thing affect you, or you pick a different path.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need to make the choice. And when you want to put it to bed, that thing that caused it, you need to go back. The greatest way of doing it is like, what would you tell them? And doing things like this now that we're doing is we have the opportunity, because we're talking about your life, we're talking about your wisdom and your experiences and things that you've done. There might be a kid out there that's listening to this that needs to hear this, and you're going to set a chain of events in their life by saying exactly that. We're like, don't doubt yourself, back yourself, pursue your dreams, because you did it, you made it through, right? But see, then you didn't think that. You thought it was going to be the worst and all this sort of stuff, and maybe that's just exactly what they need to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the point you just made there about pursuing your dreams. Like that's a big thing. I think, like, I always sort of preach that, it's like, I think so many people are scared to, jump out of the norm. They think like with their career, they need to do this because, whatever reason. I think so many people are scared to just try and pursue something, whether it just be a passion or something they're good at or whatever. And I'm always about that. Just grab the ball and just, go for it. Like it's, what's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't work out, then at least you tried, I've always been very mindful of that, and that I never want to get older and then be like, oh, what if I did that, even down to the point of me now moving to Portugal, it's like, that was a big thing. I was like, I'm not happy in the UK. I need to go see what life will look like, somewhere else. And if I don't try it, then I'm going to grow old and just sit there and be like, what if I did that, But yeah, I very much think about that a lot. Like, I think, you just got to pursue whatever it is, like, even if it's like some crazy dream, like, just go for it,
What would you say if there's people out there that are thinking about it and they're on the cusp and they've just not pushed over that pivot point?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Just jump. I don't know. I think it's such a scary thing, but I mean, I've done it like multiple times now with things, and I think that is the scariest part, is just that jump, like, whatever that might be, whatever that might look like, whether it is, like I said, moving country or whatever, like, if you're pursuing a different career, quitting your job and going for something else, whatever that jump is, just go for it, because it's like, that's the hardest bit. Once you've done that, like, then you can start to deal with everything else.
What was the biggest jump you made?
The best jump I made?
The biggest.
Oh, the biggest?
Like, it might not have been the most monumental shift in your life, but the one that felt the hardest to do, that really got you moving when you made it.
I don't know. I guess with like my career, like getting into tattoos, like, that was a pretty big deal for me, because like, it was such a different path. And also, like, like I kind of said earlier, it wasn't really a popular thing at the time. So it wasn't like I had anyone else to look for as like inspiration, it was a lot more underground at that time. Not like way back in like the 60s and that, but like, it was still like not a normal thing to be a tattoo artist. So, there was definitely a lot of doubt there, whether I should do it or not. And then, like, just certain people, like, I wouldn't say anyone in particular, but like people in my family were just like a bit like weirded out by it. Like, what? Like, it's a strange thing to pursue,
Do you know what to call them out?
Nah. But yeah, just
what did we say earlier? Your greatest haters turn into your biggest fans.
Yeah. Oh,
give it long enough.
Yeah, for sure. And even like, like I said earlier, I didn't have a close relationship with my mum when I was younger, but now I do. And like, even then, like, she was a bit like, a bit like, whoa, that's a bit weird. Like, do you know what I mean? And like, when I started coming back with more and more tattoos, she's like, oh, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? She was a bit like, mums are like that, but you know, she was a bit like freaked out at first. I think she's like, "What's going on with my son?" You know. But you know, now I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't speak for her, but I'm pretty sure, you know, she's probably like pretty proud of what I've done, you know, like, and you know, she's seen that I've took something I was like passionate about and made it into a career. Obviously not so much right now, because obviously I've just moved country, so like tattooing is like a little bit of a backseat in my life at the minute. But yeah, it's I think, like I say, that was a big jump for me, just finding that like more of a like purpose, like I'm doing something that I'm actually like I'm really interested in, and it's like creative, and I fit in, like I felt like I fit in, you know, because it was like, you know, all the guys that like I worked with in the tattoo shop, they was all a bit like, you know, a bit different, and like it just like, yeah, I don't know, it just felt like, oh yeah, this is it, you know, like it felt right.
Do you like being around the feeling of misfits fitting in?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Like I don't know them, but what you're describing, I'm thinking right, there's lots of misfits that are going, yeah, we fit together.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. Like when, you know, I mean, obviously I'm like smothered in tattoos, but like as far as like some people go, they're like, you know, look even more wild, like, and you know, express themselves even more crazy. Like I remember there was some guys that would like come hang out at the shop, and they would just like absolutely covered in piercings, you know, like just crazy ones, like massive stretches in their nose, and like all sorts of mad stuff, you know. But I found it fascinating. I was like, that's awesome that you've like took that upon yourself to go, I want to look like this. I'm gonna do this stuff.
But they represent the same thing that you've experienced, whereas they're not being constrained and pigeonholed.
Exactly.
So you can admire, like, even that might not be a look that you would go for or something you would do. You can admire that they've took that same step.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I just I think it's like yeah, it's I respect it. You know, when you see someone that's like, you know, gone, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's like, yeah, you sort of like tip your cap to them. You know, it's like cool, good for you. You know, like,
do you find it easy to be proud of yourself?
Not particularly. I wouldn't say. No, I don't know. Like sometimes, but then like other times, like yeah, I don't know. I think you do find it quite hard to like notice that I've actually done something worth being proud of. Maybe I don't know, or like if someone else like pays me a compliment, sometimes I feel a bit like awkward. You know, I'm just a bit like, oh, like I don't know, I don't feel right. You know, like I don't feel like I deserve that compliment. You know, like but yeah, other times maybe like, you know, if it's something a bit more profound or something that I'm like, oh yeah, no, I have done good with that, you know, then I do feel proud of what I've done. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, so you the way that you mentioned the answer earlier when you said there's a few times in my life that, you know, I could have been doing with help. You mentioned when you were a kid, so let on that there was maybe a few other times. What other ones maybe stand out?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like much of that same sort of thing, like those periods, like when I was like making a jump into a new career and I didn't know whether it was the right thing to do, and like, you know, I didn't feel like I had, even though I did ultimately make the right choice, like I didn't have someone to sort of back me and be like, yeah, like you should be doing this, you know.
What would back you feel? What would that look like?
I don't know, man. Like I just, sometimes the way I look at it is I think of it like if I was on the other side, like, you know, say like it was my son, what would I say to my son, you know? And I would, you know, I'd sit him down and I'd be like, look, you know, if this is what you're interested in, then go for it. Like grab it, like I said, grab it by the horns and just go for it. Put your effort into it and you're going to succeed, you know? Like it's, I don't know, sometimes you need that, you know? Like even if, like I say, I managed to come out of it the right direction and it worked out, but some people don't. Some people like make that jump and then second guess themselves and go, oh no, what have I done? And then, you know, and then they like maybe go back to what they was doing before, you know, whether it's changed career and then it's not panning out how they thought, so then they go running back. You know, I think having someone to have that confidence behind you and go, no, you're doing the right thing, like stick to it, you know, like I think that helps a lot, you know.
So one of the things that happens is that we're never perfect. right? None of us are.
Of course not.
Okay, so it's not that you striving perfection, even with someone with your approach to perfection, is unattainable. I hate to break it to you.
Oh, no, I'm a firm believer in that. I say you can never get a 10 out of 10.
Like, so the advice that you've given to, that you would give to people that have been in situations like yours is pursue your goals. You don't need to fit in. Stick at it. Trust yourself. Right? Don't doubt yourself. Back your judgment, and always grab the opportunities with both hands. Grab the bull by the horns. Seize the day. Go for it. Push. If we were to score you out of 100, so 0 being you don't do any of what you've just described, and 100 what you do all of the time, with all of the advice that you've given, what score would you give yourself?
I don't know. I guess realistically 80.
That's good.
Say. I like I just said, 100% is unattainable. So realistically, am I 90%? 90% is almost like 100%, really, isn't it?
Well, think of it more like what it's the perfection bit where you would be getting the ultimate result all of the time and expect everything to go your way. It's probably not going to be like that. Think of it more in the case of the advice that you've given, the mindset that you go into things. Are you doing that mindset 100% of the time? Because you can choose that. You might not get the outcome, but you can definitely choose it. So would you say that 80 is where you're at? And the beauty of this is that what we want to portray to people here is that even if you feel lonely, even if you doubt yourself, even if you don't back yourself, even if you feel like no one is there, and even if you feel like you're lost, and even if you feel that you've not found your purpose yet, you can still do multiple iterations of this, still achieve great results, still pursue your dreams, still go into a career that you've went into, still follow your passion and find your path, even only doing it 80% of the time. So you don't need to be 100.
Oh, no.
100's good. 80 works.
Yeah, for sure. I think like regardless as if you have that mentality, there's always going to be those doubts or whatever. Like, you know, not everything's the same, you know, like some things you might be certain about and other things you're more doubtful about, you know. But even if you like to use the same thing I was saying about earlier, jumping, even if you jump on both of those things, the one thing that you're more certain about is going to be, you know, it's a different like feeling, you know, whereas like something that's, you know, you're doubting more, you still might jump and do it, but there's that little bit of doubt that creeps in because you're like, oh, I don't know, this is a bit more risky or whatever it is. But I think, like I say, I think the most important thing is if the feeling is there that you need to do it, then just do it, because, you know, it's at least you can say you've tried. Like that's the main thing, I think.
I think one of the things I'm highly critical of is the word realistic.
Right.
It's a bad word.
Okay.
You want me to tell you why?
Yeah.
Right. So if we were to go back 5 or 10 years, right, and we spoke to Thomas then, and we said, you've moved to Portugal, you settled with a beautiful lady, you've got your own YouTube channel, you're cycling, right, you've made this huge move. What would he say that's realistic or unrealistic?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into it too much, like 5 years ago, definitely not, because I was a completely different person then, you know. So, definitely, obviously, yeah.
Would it be mildly unrealistic or massively unrealistic?
Massively unrealistic. I mean, other than the fact that I definitely then wanted to move to another country. So that part, like, I could have seen that happening. Yeah. But yeah, the rest of it, definitely not. So
I want you to imagine that we are sitting down doing an exercise. We'll not do it for the purposes of time, but we were sitting down and I was asking you about, right, Thomas, we're going to build your ultimate 5-year goals that you're going to hit, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And you use the word realistic, right? You'd be getting a slap on the wrist. Because if we were looking today into 5 years ahead and you use the word, I'm setting these goals realistically, it's a bad word. It's exactly a bad word, because see, 5 years ago, if you went back to then and you looked at the life now, you would have said it's massively unrealistic.
No, yeah, for
So
sure.
you never ever set your goals to be realistic or mildly unrealistic. They need to be massively unrealistic, because the life you have today, not a short amount of time ago, was massively unrealistic to you. And it shows the power of determination. All the advice that you just gave, remember, grab the bull by the horns, find your path, do whatever it takes to get there. Hard work, determination, don't doubt yourself, push, drive forward, don't give in, don't stop, don't listen to other people. That's how you have a massively unrealistic outcome in life. Doing exactly that. And you're only doing it 80% of the time. So for the psychopath in you, there's 20% more to go. But never, ever, ever, ever use the word realistic. Remove it from your lexicon. It should never exist. Because there's no point in your life that you go back, we went through your timeline here, there is no point in your life that the future point in your life was a realistic version of that life. If we could go back a few years, you would go, nah, it's not me. There's never a way I'm going to get that. You know, the guy building the BMX, you're going to be, you know, going around doing drifting. The guy that's doing, you know, the drifting, you're going to be in graphic design. You'll be like, nah, mate, that's not me. And then the guy in graphic design, you're going to be a tattoo artist. Nah. You know, there's no point where it becomes realistic. So never, ever frame it with realistic. Remove it.
I like that.
So what's your plans for the future? Now that we just took realistic out of the equation.
I don't know, man. To be honest, like, I'm in a bit of a weird point in my life now where it's like I haven't really got like goals as such. Like, usually I always do have something I'm aiming for, but right now I kind of getting here was like the main goal, and then I was going to sort of like figure it out from here. So I am in a bit of a like weird space where I'm just trying to figure stuff out in a minute, but obviously, like, I want to continue doing what I'm doing, you know, with the tattoos. Like, you know, things are going to take a while to build with that, like in a new country, you know, get established. So yeah, that's obviously a big thing that I'm just kind of focusing on. And then, you know, with the YouTube stuff, like that kind of happened so randomly that I've never had a plan with that. That's just, you know, that has just evolved into something I never thought it was going to anyway. So with that, I really am just sort of rolling the dice and seeing what happens. But of course, yeah, I'm interested to like keep growing that now. Like, you know, it's not just you know, like I said at the start, like, it's not just something I'm doing just to like waste some time and be creative, you know. It's a bit different now because obviously I'm fitting it around you know, my life, and you know, it's become a much bigger part of my life. So yeah, I definitely want to keep pursuing that, and then yeah, I guess we'll see.
His goals are fucking weak, man. These are fluffy and weak goals. We're going to fix these up pretty quick.
I'm being honest. Like I said,
I do believe you're being honest. I'm also being honest. They're fluffy and weak.
Yeah.
If you've got this far with this approach, I can't imagine how much further you'll go if we get you tightened up.
I mean, like, of course I have goals. Like, yeah, okay. Like, you know, I want to at some point I have my own tattoo studio here because
it's getting better.
Yeah, you know, I feel like these are obvious things, you know, like, because it's like I had that already in the UK, so I kind of, you know, I just want to replicate that. So I want to have my own tattoo studio here, you know, eventually. But I'm not really interested in that at the moment because it's like, you know, I'm trying to build a rep here first and like get my name out there. It's, you know, it's a process, you know. I can't just suddenly like, you know. What do I do? Like shout out, oh, everyone, I'm here, you know, like no one knows I'm here. So it's going to take a bit of time for that to happen. And then, you know, years down the line, I own my own tattoo shop and, you know, maybe have people like working with me. Obviously the channel, like, you know, it's been growing like ever since I started. Like, you know, it was very slow at the start, but, you know, in, you know, the last year or so, it's been growing quite well. So, you know, just going to keep like putting time and effort into that, hopefully keep growing it, and, you know, opportunities will come from that.
I mean, one of the things that stands out is that you're nimble. Like if you think of being nimble as like an oil tanker takes a huge time to turn, a speedboat can turn much faster, so you can adapt and adjust. And that ability to adapt and adjust is you keep yourself nimble, but you throw yourself into things, which is ironically diametrically opposed to your psychotically planning nature, which is throwing yourself into the deep end doesn't go against let me plan everything out. Right. And it's an interesting sort of combination there. But here's one thing that I would think about is, did you think that you would have millions of views on videos riding bikes when you were that kid at 16 with your pal's camcorder?
Oh, definitely not. No.
I mean, look.
I mean, there's actually, I won't ever link them anywhere, but there's some videos out there, like on YouTube, I think, of me when I was like young, like riding BMX. And yeah, I uploaded them to YouTube, but I never like, obviously then like YouTube wasn't really a massive thing, but like I never thought it was gonna, you know, I never thought they would like become anything. And then obviously never thought I would end up getting into, you know, doing more videos and posting stuff on YouTube years down the line. You know, this is like 10 years later, you know.
What an incredible circle of events.
It's mad. Yeah, it's crazy. And
did you ever sit back and think about it? Think, you know, like we've done here today, where you go, I had a camcorder with a tape in it.
I know, it's madness, yeah. And it, to be fair, it's mad how like the things have all sort of like come together and helped me, because it's like, you know, the graphic design has then helped with the tattoos, which has then helped me like, you know, being able to use computers, which then helped me to learn how to edit, which I use for the videos. It's like all these things that I've done have like all somehow come together and helped me with other things. But it's like, obviously I never planned any of that. It's just the way it happened. But it's kind of a nice coincidence, I guess. It's ended up.
It seems like everything fell into place.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, like I say, it's just, I think that kind of does happen, right? Like if you do, you know, stick to, you know, your plan, or well, not your plan, but your dreams or whatever you want to do. If you do stick to it, then it does fall into place, right? Eventually, sometimes not straight away, but.
Well, it's one of those things that if you stick to the plan, you will be nudged into what you should be doing next. Like something will happen and it'll bump you into what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And not to get hung up on the plan changing. The plan changes, go with it. Right, because life's got a funny way of nudging you exactly where you need to be at exactly the right time. You meet the right people, you're doing the right things, and the gaps are filled with that space that allows doubt and what ifs and all the sort of negative beliefs that you can have. And a big thing that you can do to fill those gaps is also ask the opposite side of that, because everything has an opposite. You know, what if it doesn't work? Well, okay, it might not work. What if it does? Right? What if, you know, I try that and I fail? Well, okay, what if you try it and it works? Well, if you get success. What if I make this plan and it doesn't work out? What happens if it does? What happens if I meet all the right people? What happens if nobody shows up? And so on. All these things tend to have an opposite. And what you get to pick what's in that gap. So you can pick the negative, which is fine. Look, no problem. You can go through and run all the scenarios of it doesn't work and you could be this and people think, you know, badly if you fail and there's loads of haters and all that. Yeah, you can do that. What about the other people who are going to be cheering you? What about the other people who are going to show up for you? What about all those? And you get to fill that period between the events nudging you one to the other.
Yeah. And
you get to decide, and it's the power of your mind. It's all in there. You get to choose. So choose wisely. But whatever you do, don't be realistic. Ever.
I'm going to remove that from my vocabulary right now.
Ever. Take it right off the table. It's been a pleasure having you on and going through all your story.
Definitely, mate.
It's been awesome. It's been great spending 4 days. Well, I don't know if I'd use the word great. I'll use the word great. We'll call it great. It was an experience.
Yeah.
A really, really good experience coming along, spending some time riding the bikes, seeing this beautiful place that you've moved to, and hearing more about your story. Because I think a lot of people like that. They like the content that you're putting out. They like the videos. You know, they like the guy that's putting it together. They're seeing that creative element, that technical ability. But I think they'll like that kind of deep dive, those lessons that you've learned, how you got there, where you tripped, how you got back up, which is, again, a part of the 4-day event where you just get back up. Just like you said, you says, look, go straight into the next corner as fast as you can. That's like life. You know, you fall down, you get back up, you go again, right? Because you don't want to start stiffening up, getting doubt. Don't let it creep in.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the power of what you did, because you had a lot of opportunities, a lot of fork in the road where you could have just turned around and went, nah, I'm not going to do it. But I don't know if you intuitively or instinctively or maybe consciously made the decision to back yourself, or maybe you didn't have a choice. It doesn't matter which one, but you got up and you did it. And I think people like it. They like to hear more about the man behind the camera. So it's been a pleasure taking the time to get to hear a bit more about your story.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on.
No problem, man. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Well, hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Mount Mindset. We dug into the twists and turns of the cycling tattooist, aka Thomas Martinez. I think what you can take away from today's podcast is the power of your mind, what it takes to beat fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and why, even if you're a perfectionist, you should consider just jumping in, grabbing the bull by the horns, and getting on with it. And even if you have all the right advice, even doing it 80% of the time is going to get you incredible results. And whatever you do, do not be realistic. So I'll put all of Thomas's details in the show notes. If you want to see more about this adventure in Portugal, if you want to find out more about what he's up to, and you want to see some of these incredible videos that he's put together, go give him a follow on his YouTube channel. And from me this week, that's a wrap.